apar. E kaunti ma Siaya bende wantiere gi Cornel Rasanga ma bende osetiyo kuom thuolo mar higni apar. E kaunti ma Kisumu wantiere gi Anyang' Nyong'o ma bende sani osetiyo kuom thuolo mar higni 5. Gi sani pod odhi nyime gi kisera mar ombulu mar mondo mi odwoke kendo mar tiyo ne oganda ma Kisumu. Ka bende odhi nyime gi kisera mar ombulu ma kamano e kaunti ma Kisumu. Kaluwore gi governors mage nyaka Ramogi Ajuanga bende singo ma bende nagi chiwo e kinde ma bende nagi donje e apis bende gisechopo kata mana singo ma kamage. Ma embaka ma bende wadwaro mar mondo mi wago odiochieng' ma kawuono. Parni manifestos chenro ma bende governors gi nagintiere godo bende negisechopo singo ma kamage. Gisani nwaneno moko kuom governors ma bende laro lemo, jochung' mopogore opogore lemo ma governors. Ma bende gisani koro osewuok oko, gichiwo manifesto kata mana chenro ma bende gintiere godo ne jopiny. Nwaneno governor masani ma Kisumu, mana Anyang' Nyong'o nosechiwo mare, jachung' malaro komb governor e county ma Homa Bay mano Evans Kidero bende nwaseneno kosechiwo manifesto mare ne jodak e kaunti ma Migori. Kaunti ma Siaya bende nwaneno James Orengo bende gisani bende osechiwo manifesto mare. Manifesto makamano bende nwaneno Nicholas Gumbo bende osepedho yanga manifesto mare. Odiochieng' ma kawuono governor mari bende ni intiere e gwengegi gisetiyo ni e yo machalo nade. Ote ioro nwenda mamarwa mar ote machuok 236 kaka pile. Mbui mar Facebook yudowa @1 Ramogi TV. Tudri koda bende mbui maga iyuda @Sharon Ong'aw. Odiochieng' ma kawuono kan kenda mar goyo mbaka makama kenda ntiere gi okila. Kendo janon siasa ma bende olimo wa e studio mano Charles Midenga. Charles arwakini machiegni.
Kero kamano Sharon oyawre.
Oyawre inya. Yeah. Okong'wani Charles kata mna kwa chako, isi kata mna penjo mabende apenjo ganda maneno wasani. Charles Midenga wuok e county man.
Charles Midenga wuok e county ma Migori, sub county ma iluongo ni Nyatike, santo koro poge wan gi Nyatike West, kumoro ni Kanyasa Ward. Kamano.
Mano ber. Governor mari Okoth Obado osetiyo chakre higa mar 2013 nyaka sani koro tieko tamne higa mar 2022 higni 10. In kaka jalut ombulu e county ma Migori, en gino marani kata ki iwuok e county ma Migori luto ombulu e county ma Migori?
Aluto ombulu e county ma Migori Kanyasa school momiluongo ni Aringo Primary. Aringo Primary en some actually 200 meters from Dalana. Koro gimanyalo wacho ni seche ma keto jotelo e tago maliet mondo wang'iyane ni be gisetiyo, nitiere gik mang'eny mwang'iyo. Mokwongo jopiny kano wuok tarik 4 dwe mar 8 higa 2010 or 4th of August 2010 kane gidhi timo buch ombulu madundo miluongo ni referendum. Nyaka wang'i ni jopiny ne dwaro ang'o seche mane gigoyo kura. Kasto kane wa promulgate constitution tiene kano puodh katiba masani tarik 27 dwe mar 8 higa 2010 jopiny noketo mikakati magi e katiba. Seche ma wang'iyo ni governor osetiyo, nyaka wang'i ni katiba wacho nang'o ni tich governor en ang'o. King'iyo katiba toke kanyo nitie gimiluongo ni schedules. Fourth schedule wacho ni national government kata sirkal maduong' onego bed ni timo kama. Then wan gi county government, wan gik matimo. Mokwongo en gik miluongo ni agriculture. Wan gi gik miluongo ni licensing kaka rates, revenues, gik machalo kamano. To gi transport, parking and so on. Koro kaduoko penje wach mar Migori, anyalo wacho ni nyaka bed fair ne jok motiyo to gi jok moko tiyo. Seche ma wang'iyo nyaka wang'i ni Migori en county ma ang'ot mayudore. Wan gik miluongo ni ndawa Migori. Wan gik miluongo ni gold kuma e Nyatike. Wan gi gik miluongo, wan gi rech malo kujo chonde. Wan gi rabuon. Koro tich county en ang'o. Ibo yudo ni thoth jotelo mantiere kanyo gikia gik ma onego bed ni gitimo. Nikech kata manifestos ma wasomo yudo kiwacho ni wabo partner gi private investors. To gikia ni chik oyiede county onyalo acquire land, tene onyalo yudo lo e nying county. Mar ariyo, county nyalo bedo gi contracts owuon moko onego bed ni ochuno nyaka ibed gi private investor ma ikony jopiny. Seche ma wawacho Migori County wan gi sugar cane kata tiang'. Kidhi Migori Soni from yo maduong' ma Kisii kidonjo iye kanyo onge gima nyalo nyisi ni tiang' timore. Tiang' ninde puothe. Tich county en ang'o? Mano pok obedo addressed. Wan gi ndawa migolo from Migori titero Thika. Chon ne wan gi Alliance One nopodho. BAT mantiere to BAT no en mana kumikane. To magi kembe ma kwayudo kuchocho to ng'ato nyalo chiyo gokinyi to dhi tiyo kanyo. Wan gi gold midasadasa ma mono bedo piny ineno mana ka timo gi karaya. To mondo sirkal obir gi a very robust system kata gima ber mar wacho ni koro wabed gi technology mamalo. Kidhi nyatike kanyo boyudo bugni madongo dongo, lobe madongo do mochwo nyaka malo. Bugni go pod iusogi. Kata lobe go pod iusogi. Ang'o miusogi? Nikech iye kanyo nitiere gold ma ji pod chako ng'iewo to uso. To kinyalo bedo gi technology mamalo, wanyalo maximize mano. Kidhi e rech, onge the whole of Migori County, kuma nyalo wacho ni wan gi fish processing plant. Ibo yudo ni wan mana gi fish ka jingi koko matindo tindo modire chuny nam. But onge kuma nyalo, and en gima lit kabisa. Case Migori has a very big chunk of, especially kumae, marnam. Mwanyalo bedo ni, apart from beaches matindo tindo magi store eche ice gik machalo kawan, mago gik mok nyal konyo. Wadwaro governor, manyalo biro gi paro maleo. Mondo wach ni, gini koro ochopo kuma koro nyaka wawach gik mopogore, nyaka watim gi technology masani, mago onge. Kia wach mag raw materials mawachogo. Basic things, gik matindo tindo but konyo ngima dhano. Anyalo nyisi ni the whole of Migori County onge running water, kata pi mar fridge. En gima lit ni kipenjo jotelo to ginyisi ni wakunyo borehole. Borehole 2022, ikunyo bomba 2022.
Manego bed ni gitimango.
Nigo bed ni mokwongo wawacho niya en site mane monyalo bede gi dam. Kwa bede gi dam kaka ineno ndaka hii dam ma supply Nairobi ni. Kwa sebedo gi yao to ere kaka wanyalo tudo gigi. Apart from sani nitiere program mar World Bank makelo pie gwenge. But mano World Bank, county government tich ne nango. Onge kata matin. Dhano dhi e yao, dhano dhi e aora, dhano dhi e nam. Apart from that, ndalo oro, actually abo nyisi ni Migori, aora Migori, because kanyo be nitie kuma dak e Suna East kanyo. Abo nyise ni aora Migori nitie njalo manyalo tuo, minyalo wuothe gi socks gi wuoche. Koro seche mandalo motuo to koro ji yudo pi kune. Magi gik monego bed ni wang'iyo. Wadwaro governors ma wigi ler manyalo kelo pogruok e ngima dhano.
Makoro Charles, kinyalo keto governor ma Migori gi sani, Zachary Okoth Obado e ratil. Osetiyo kuom thuolo mar higni 10 e county ma Migori. Kaluwore gi tije mag governors moket e pend chike, ang'eni nokil Kamaloka.
Yes.
Kuom ratil demiye adi wi adi?
Anyalo wacho ni from achiel nyaka 10, and I'm very very fair and objective ne governor. Kuom achiel nyaka 10 anyalo miyo governor achiel.
Achiel wi 10.
Anyalo nyisi ni onge gima kidhi Migori tinyalo wacho ni otimore Migori.
Makoro achiel mimiye ni koro gin dongruoge mage mosetimo.
Achiel anyalo nyisi ni mane en gik moko matindo tindo mok nyal nenore. Let me just akaw point achiel kata mana revenue collection, golo osuru. Kidhi Migori wan gi technology masani ma osuru kigolo tiyudo ni en a system nitie technology. Migori boyudo ni pod wadeyo ng'ut jo pikipiki e kor gwenge. Seche moko ng'at madeyo ng'ut jo pikipiki no en gi otika ariyo. Atika achiel mar county, otika achiel mare. Ogolo siling 20, siling 50. In gi ibo hakikisha ni pesa no bobo chopo kucho. Oko bichopo. Gima inyowa malich e tend gwenge kata devolved government en ni wang'iyo pesa mamalo. Iwinjo. Jotelo kiani nitiere different options maginyalo yudo godo pesa. Wan gi gimiluongo ni national exchequer. Seche ma pesa obiro malo. Mano mokwongo ma is very obvious. And jotelo ka jotelo bedo ka duol matayo weche giluongo ni Commission on Revenue Allocation. Wacho ni the current financial year 2021-2022 nomiyo counties te Kenya 370 billion. Mano mokwongo. Mar ariyo en revenue allocation. I mean revenue collection. Rates mwayudogi otiko minena nyisi e kor gwenge to gi kata mana e chiro. Mar adek mabe sirkende mang'eny kata kisomo manifesto gibinyisi gin gitidhi kacha ni pesa nitie to ginyis jopiny ni wato wadhi loso pesa nang'o, borrowing kata omo loan. Sirkande mag tend gweng' oyienegi kawo loan from oko kata mana within mondo gita chenro magi. Mar ang'wen en donations, asewacho World Bank. Nitiere kidhi Migori nitie chiro moro to kombo kanyo mano World Bank emogero. To jopiny kia, jatelo bonyisi ni kia ni mae magero, kia gima timore kamano, to ok ogero mano. Koro oningo wabed ni waketo joge tago maliet mondo seche ma gik moko timore wang'e gima timo, nikech kineno gik miluongo ni objects mag devolution, one of them gimomiyo wakelo devolution en gima iluongo ni self governance. Tiende ni jopiny nigi teko kendo gin ema gitayo chenro mag giwegi. Self governance biro gi gik machalo ni gima iluongo ni public participation. Public participation gi dholuo mateng' en twak mar oganda
mani ikawo pachgi.
Ikawo pachgi. Gik moko ariyogo bo isi ni japiny ema nie telo, japiny e boss. Governor, MCA, speaker, mago jok miluongo ni trustees in power. Tiende gin gi jola kanyo, but ng'amondike en japiny.
Penjo maduong' ni public participations kata mana kawo pach jopiny ikawo gi nade. Ng'eni mano be penjo maduong' nikech manifestos bende waneno kata mana ka gigolo koni gi kocha.
Public participation en wacho ni katiba gi dho wagunda ni the running theme constitution, kata niya gimoro amora mitimo king'iyo kata mana pend chik article 10. Public participation, principle of good governance. Kapok itimo budget mitero e county assembly, chik wacho ni the relevant committee nyaka bed gi jopiny mondo ging'e priorities kata gik ma jopiny oningo bed ni dwaro. Gimomiyo mano timore en ni ok inyal dhi ir japiny tinyise ni adang' ng'iewo ni wuoche tikia ni ode nigi wuoch tiel adi. Koro nyaka ibed ni iwuoyo gi japiny, ida dhoge, onyisi ni gweng' machalo kama wato mage gik ma walak. Kasi ing'iyo tiwacho ni budget mar financial year mar higani, waneno ni pesani watere e migawo machalo kama, pesani watere e migawo machalo kama. To mago gik ma koko timore en gima ni chik minyalo kata dhi e doho mi wach ni gini oketho chik, onego wang'ade oko, ochak manyien. Gimiluongo ni for want of public participation. Koro ok en gima wawacha, en gima iboyudo ni kata nitiere chike mang'eny ma kidhi e doho mamalo to gibiro declared unconstitutional. Tiende ni giketho ratiro mar dhano. Koro nyaka iket japiny gimoro amora mitimo. Kia e budgeting wan gi gik miluongo ni report. Chik wacho king'iyo nitie chik ma after promulgation mar katiba in 2012 nwagolo chik miluongo ni Public Finance Management Act. Chik no wacho ni county ka county nyaka bed gi miluongo ni County Integrated Development Plan. County Integrated Development Plan ni en gima bedo ran igni abich. To ma ing'iyo ni namba mokwongo be in terms of budget estimates kata kama kaka wadatiyo gi pesa nyaka iter kanyo. To samitimo kama ok en gima governor ema timo wuon. Governor nigi jogene e county ka wan gi jok miluongo ni county executives, wan gi chief officers ma gimitero kanyi e county assembly ma puodhe. Seche mitimo mano jopiny be nyaka winj pachgi. Koro emomiyo wawacho ni seche ma watayo mbaka kata watimo gik makelo dongruok nyaka wang'e ni to wakanyi to wadhi kanyi to ere gik manyalo konyo jopiny mondo wayud olemo mag devolution mane jopiny dwaro.
Erokamano ahinya. Nyakoro mga jwang'o par ni odiochieng' ma kawuono thund wach en ni wanono telo mago mag counties mopogore opogore. Ahinya counties magwa mag Kaluo, wantiere gi Siaya, wantiere gi Homa Bay, wantiere gi Migori, wantiere gi Kisumu. Duto te nitiere counties adek Kaluo ma bende oseta gi governor achiel kuom thuolo mar higni 10. Mana kopogore gi county ma Kisumu ma bende gisani nyaka sani wasebedo gi governors ariyo, mano Jack Ranguma gi governor masani ma en Anyang' Nyong'o. Telo kata mana governors makamagi gisetiyo ni e yo machalo nade? Bende ng'e kata mana tij governor kapok iwacho kata mana ni governor pok otiyo. Odiochieng' ma kawuono bende wadwaro winjo pachi nyakwa Ramogi Ajwang'a. Ote nyalo oronwa, tol bende nyalo mana gonwa sime bende inyiswa pachi. Kapo nono ni nitiere county ma Migori, Kisumu, Siaya, Homa Bay, nyalo mana nyiso watend counties mopogore opogore kaka osebedo katiyo ma bende kaluwore gi chenro manifesto. Kikawo manifesto awach kata mana ni mar Anyang' Nyong'o manodonje telo. kika manifesto mare awinjo no wache kata ni nyalore wasetimo to sani bende kano golo manifesto moro wacho ni wadok timo mana ka wanyalo wuok e county ma Migori wamula ne county ma Kisumu matin kaka ringo
adwa bedo fair ne ngire Anyang' Nyong'o ndawacho ni Anyang' Nyong'o kuom governors ma pinje luo Anyang' Nyong'o otemo kabisa kendo kidhi Kisumu to kaka iluonge ni Europe ochalo Europe nyochan Kisumu kot kanyo tabo nyise ni pogruok nitie maduong' Kisumu city nigi gimiluongo ni unique status as a city koro nitiere priorities ok en kuma japeng
bende bomba maduong' e pachoka regi Nairobi Mombasa Nakuru noseloko bomba gi Kisumu mago bombe
ang'wen tabo nyise ni kata chieng' mane nitiere forum moro ma nitiere mag interdevelopment cities Kisumu ne gipenjo ka koro ma en city muwacho ni mar adek to ber kama koro mokwongo chal nade achaka dhi Mombasa I think dwe mokalo abo nyise ni olil disorganized mopore Kisumu koro Nyong'o osetemo nyaki kwongo ikel order kisekelo order e city kokin attract investors mondo biro kanyo koro abo nyise ni nitiere pogruok maduong' ka Nyong'o pok nobedo to gi kako obedo sani kuma koro wakonyo wakwayo ni mondo koro terwa okang' mamalo kosekelo order e county ma Kisumu to koro ng'iyane ofuko jopiny oniane economic development priorities mag investments mondo jopiny bed gi ngufu ma neno ka ginyalo tayo giegi mano nyaka bed priority mare kabisa mar adek en ni apart from counties moko mag luo Kisumu bo nyise ni case kembni manitiere iboydo ni revenue collection kata choko suru ni malo moloyo Homa Bay moloyo Migori moloyo Siaya koro otemane maber konyalo improve mano mondo lokruok mar jopiny obedi
to lokruok iwacho ne iseneno ka neno e county ma Kisumu ahinya kwa ng'iyo manifesto kata nakwadwa kolo manifesto mano mar Anyang' Nyong'o mar higa mar 2017 nyaka higa mar 2022 nitiere gik ma bende chenro kata mana dongruoge mopogore ma bende owacho ni ne osetimo achiel kuomgi en kar choko taka makachok ma bende nogolo e chuny boma mano machiegni gi skund sekondar ma Kisumu Day gisani koro olos botanic garden nitiere kar wiyo moro ma bende olos makare ma bende Anyang' Nyong'o wacho ni osebedo koloso moko kuom okinge ma bende isechoko wacho pedestrian walks kunde ma bende ji wuothe e boma ma Kisumu moko kuom gi bende wacho ni gedo mag bus parks nitiere Nyamasaria bus park gi mamoko kata kamano bende gedo mag chirni bende osewacho kana ni dongruoge mopogore mag singo ma bende nokete manifesto chenro ma bende ne nitiere godi higa mag 2017 nyaka 2022 nitiere bende gundho pautuke ahinya Mamboleo kacha to Mamboleo ni donne gundho gi mar piny owacho
well king'iyo gik ma neno Nyong'o timo Kisumu kata county government ma Kisumu timo ibiro ni gigo katiba wacho ni mago gik ma functions ma county government onego bed ni timo tibo yudo ni gigo ken gik mano chiwo chieng' moro achiel to wacho ni waket Uhuru market kacha watim gimo kama waket dumping site kacha osebedo kowuoyo gi jopiny ni to un county wa mwahero ni udwa ni watime nade omiyo kelo gigo gima kelo chandruok en gimoro achiel ni dhano ok oyiega change neno ka dhano koseng'iyo ni otimo kama to dhi kama pile ka pile mondo igole ka itere kumachielo kaoga time abo nyisi ni kada kidhi Uhuru market nakalo kanyo chieng' moro machiegni I think 2 weeks ago ibiro yudo ni dhano tamore donjo iye kanyo dhano uso gik moko oko etie na lam kama to kipenjogi to ginyisi ni jok ma tich godhiambo ne ka gikalo kanyo to gineno ka rech moro ni kacha nyanya moro ni kacha to dwano kwanya gidwanjda to sama iketo gino ni koro ini uso gige ni tendara mokwongo ni en risk gari kobiro nyalo gwei kesi uso tendara buru be tiere madonje gigo to kidonjo iye kacha to nitiere order iyudo ka koro piny ofuongore koro jopiny be nyaka kony jotendgi mondo gilok ngimagi change nyaka bedi ok en ni gimoro mitimo pile pile ni mebo timo nyaka chieng' dhano biro gi paro mopogore kendo timo kamano iwacho wach mar
Mamboleo Sports Ground
Mamboleo Sports Ground Mamboleo Sports Ground okada wache matuta ahinya nikech nitie weche mamieno tabo nyisi ni oningo bed ni sirkal kata county government seche matimo kamano ningo bed ni ginono nonro matut nikech pa mautukego gin gik ma very important e ngima dhano kendo katiba wacho ni one of the functions mag tend gwenge en gimiluongo ni paw tuke or sports facilities moningo bed ni giketo ne jopiny. Actually ber ka every county yudo ka en gi team na kata club mare manyalo represente kes county ka county nigi docket miluongo ni mar sports. Tibo yudo ni gini seche moko pesa ichiwo to kata jotugo ok ne pesa no. Anyalo mana wacho ni Kakamega kidhi Kakamega Homeboys ibo yudo ni nitiere pesa moro mimiyogi matin to neno ka gitema kian nyocha ne gibedo namba 2. Koro gige moningo bed ni sirkal biro godo mondo wabed gi lokruok wawe timo gik moko nyachon nikech sani gima bonyisi ni sirkal ka donjo wan gi chike mudhuro makara chike mineno ni los assembly kata kiloso kata iloso wen nyaka los gi nikech wan gi appropriation budget machalo kamano already nitiere in place ini nyisi mana ni migao ni oningo bed ni timo kama migao ni oningo bed ni eno kama it's very easy.
Ingine Charles kana timo kata mna nonro mara network makama uduchi makawuono kana ngi kata mna manifestos ne governors mabende gisani koro ntiere telo mabende no yango manifestos magi manifesto makamago nanno ka gintiere gi points machalra inya kodokoro ka chenro mag weche mag thieth ntiere telo chenro mag telo makare mano good governance ntiere weche mag pith gi pur ntiere weche mag bende weche mag thieth education mago like ranyisi kata mana mise ang'wen gi emineno kata mana kathoth governors mago bende giketo gitemo kata mana mar keto e singo magi nyaka gisen kata mana singo mabende igolo kwadonjo kata mana e wach telo maber ang'eni nwasewuok e county ma Migori wantiere county ma Kisumu wach good governance kata mana telo makare e county ma Kisumu kinyalo mana keto anyang' nyong' e ratilo kwong monde anyang' nyong' napok iketo nwe ratil ni tije kinyalo kawo achiel ewi 10 di 100 obadone se 100 anyang' nyong' 100
anyang' nyong'o anyalo 800 Kesa ngire en ng'ama wiye ler kabisa kendo ineno ka gik motimo gin gik maloko ngima dhano kendo asewuotho Kisumu every time adhi Kisumu to penjo jo Kisumu man kumoro amora madhie apenjo koro ine county mane ine constituency mane to gi ward mane tipane ng'ama nigi mbima malo kae ja taxi moro amora mosetinga Kisumu bo nyisa kara mana ja pikipiki bo nyisa ne ka ato wadoko governor koro aboro no otemo ok en gima omedone
to koro ariyo modong' mar mondo mi opong' 10 no to kikete ni nang'o
ariyo no emana wacho ni mokwongo wan gi miluongo ni economic empowerment oningo koro tere okang' mamalo mondo pesa obedo ofuko dhano mondo ne investment opportunities minyalo kel kano actually mano oningo bed priority mar ariyo mana atame mano en gimiluongo ni revenue collection kanyo onego improve revenue collection en gima en very important gimoro amora ma wacho ga en devolution asebedo gi debates mang'eny tabo nyise ni katiba okelo gik miluongo ni 47 billionaires and 47 begging units were loke gi dholuo katiba okelo jok man gi sendi kata billionaires 47 to gi jok counties units makwecho 47 tiende niya ng'at moro amora madonje telo eno neno ni tie pesa mabiro 370 billion financial year mana nyisicha to kiani mokwongo oningo beno neno ni revenue collection and function mar devolved government koro ibo yudo ni kata pesa ma ji declare wacho ni ng'ato kao 2 billion mar revenue collection even a billion ini nyisi mani wo collect million 200 million 100 modongo dhe kanye to magi be sendi manyalo magolo wuok ofuko dhano kimiyogi to gibe declared gidhi ofuko jomachi koro nyaka bed gi modern technology kibiro Nairobi ka for instance ibodo kani parking neno ka ng'ato tinde nitie technology moro ikawo mana number plate mar gachi ticket system tiwacho ni gari osechulo kata pok ochulo barabo nyise ni kidhi kuonde moko yudo kara jogo onge koro mage technology moningo bed ni waketo wa deploy in all areas mondo seche mwa collect revenue kata osuru uyudo ni every person to seche mi collect osuru collecting osuru ne gima yot kabisa nikech ki provide services maber to kata ng'at machulo no yot ne mar chudo ok chune to ka gik moko lil onge pi onge ndara kata ng'at manitiere kanyo matimo wala wacho to koro gin wachulo nang'o so mane wacho ni nyaka lokruok bedie mondo nyong'o omed dhi mbele
Naneno ka Nyong'o
5 years.
wacho ni tije mabende nokotimo kata mana chenro mabende nokochopo dwaro kata mana singo. Wacho ni koro kapo nono obio yiere kaluwore gi manifesto chenro mabende nogolo chenro mabende ogolo chakre owacho ni chenro mare chakre higa mar 2022 nyaka higa mar 2027. Oluonge gi nying moro ni wadok timo.
Yes.
Gik mabende nok gitimo mabende ni miye aboro wi aparcha. Koro wacho ni ariyo modongo koro ema koro dok timo negi.
Yes. Yeah, mano manifesto modimbore kabisa nikech en manifesto moa e chuny dhano kendo sewacho ni ng'eni ji achiel manyisi ni ng'amotiyo maber ema bonyisi ni wadok timo. Ng'amokotiyo maber kada gik motimogo ene gi daot. Kwesi ibo kele tagu mele tibo penye to koro midok ni idhi timang'o. To ng'at mong'eyo ni otiyo ema nyalo bedo gi confidence kata mijing'o to nyise ni noyiera natimo kama ema dok timonu. Koro already mano miya very big difference gi manifestos moko. Yeah. But nitie gima adwa wacho kendo e wach mar manifesto. Manifesto gi dholo maleng' iluongo ni singo. Sami singori ni idhi tiyo kama koro jibo jaji gi gimi iwacho. Kokitimo to bang' higni 5 bo iseno ni nyiso na dhi timo kama dak ni timo gino. But ibiro ni manifestos modhuro inyisi ni wadhi timo pur, wadhi timo ohala, wadhi timo kama to nitiere gima lak almost all those manifestos. Nitiere gima lak gimiluongo ni how idhi time nang'o.
Pesa ni idhi golo kanye nikech ng'eni singo gi bende kichiwo pesa gi bende gibiro golo kanye bende ginyiso jopiny ni pesa gi wabo chiwo kata mana yo machalo nade. Pesa
gi ibo golo kanye mano mokwongo. Kik wadhi adhiya gi mentality moro ni pesa nitiere malo sirkal kidhi e counties en gima lit ahinya nitiere jotich mar jo county kata mana higni 6 kapok ochulgi. Nitiere suppliers e county from 2013 nyaka devolution chake ng'ato olo pesa otere county otiyo kara gi 2 million o supply gik moko ningo yud kara mana 4 million nyaka kawuono pok ochule. Mago gik moko ningo bed ni timore nyaka jatelo mariek nyaka prioritize. Owacho ni in terms of recurrent expenditure kata chudo mar county priorities en kama. In terms of development expenditure wadhi timo kama. To mani yudo kata manifestos go lak. Nyoro nasomo arono kwa nyalo dhi mar Siaya. Nasomo manifesto gumbo otemo but ibo yudo ni gin gik moko ma very ordinary. Onge ibo yudo ni kia like owacho kumoro 32 page manifesto with nothing. Onyisi ni kia mokwongo wadhi test soil mar Siaya mondo wanene
mano manifesto ngamilo
mano mar gumbo. Wadhi test soil watiyo gi sirkal mondo ane ni soils mag Siaya gi ere kaka inyalo ti kodgi. Ipenjori ni jatelo isebedo MP mar Adiada for so long isebedo kidwaro gini pod ikia soil difference kata law mar Siaya. Ibo jaki yudo ko wacho ni gumbo ohito government onge gima chal kamano. Actually it is illegal. Onge gima iluongo ni gumbo ohito government and government mar jo Siaya. In you are a trustee in power. In undiki ni ti. Actually seche miwacho ni gumbo ohito government tiene ni mentality wacho ni adhi tiyo kaka gumbo ohito masirikanda ok en sirikandi.
Koro nego gende kenango.
Iwacho ni manifesto inyalo wacho ni manifesto mar gumbo ohito but sirkal mabiro mar Siaya government iwinjo. Mano miningo bende timo. It's a very selfless thing mitimo sirkal kata jatelo mar wacho niya jopiny bosna ata an ng'at moro ma am the servant. Mago boyudo ni gik malak kabisa. Ibo kaneno kuonde moko kacha onge kumoro amora 32 page manifesto mar gumbo mawacho ni revenue collection wadhi time nang'o. Onge kumoro mawacho ni kata sirkal oyienwa boro wadhi timo nang'o mondo sirkal oti maber kata ka pesa pok obiro malo to that void onge. Tiende ni onge vacuum moro amora weche pod dhi maber.
Naneno ka mag gumbo nigi pillars 5 gin gi mar telo makare mano governance gin gi production pith makare kik mane wache weche mag logo gi bende gintiere gi social pillar mago tudruok bende gintiere gi naneno ka moro giketo quick wins mag
pillars 5 go nasomo gite but gima nanyise ni onge gimiluongo ni how. Kidwaro ng'eyo manifesto maber en manifesto manyise ni how are we going to achieve this kata gik mineno wachogi inyalo bido gi gik mamit weche mamit to kaka idhi timo gigo onge kata chiel mane mabokelo difference ni ing'e gimitimo wanyini go bed gi jotelo ma visionary jotelo ma ong'e gimotimo kes ing'e ni nyalo dhi e sirkal kanyo 5 years ibedo piny ka governor pesa biro ichulo sara ichulo suppliers tidhi mana mbele mi uwogi ma onge difference abo nyisi ni take one county for example financial year a county ma allocation from the national exchequer yudo 10 billion for the last 10 years and 100 billion kidhi e county no 100 billion bipani nene kata ibing'we kata machiegni
kata mana ranyisi
dhi kata mana Homa Bay kichopo Homa Bay kata ni from papo kichomo kocha bineno kata ka 100 billion doom at that county
wapenya nyakwa Ramogi Juang podoro ni wuok e county ma Homa Bay siling billion ma okil Charles Midenga wacho ni county government kata mana sirikande mag gwenge osebedi kichiwo negi bende nitiere ranyisi mag telo makamaga hinya governors ma bende osebedo katiyo kata mana kuom thuolo mar higni 10 yoronwa ote koko mano ote bende aneno ka ng'eny nitiere penjo ma bende wapenji mbui marwa mar Facebook mano Ramogi TV donj kanyo mar mondo mi wasum paro bende par ni wantiere achiel kachiel kata pono ni dhi nyime gi tije magi nyalo luwo chenro makama achiel kachiel koko mano we wakawiyo matin kaduogo tabiro somo moko kuom ote magu ma bende aneno ka thoth miwuoro.
Best memories is to win, obviously, and to enjoy. Yes, I can dance. Tennis is not easy. If you watch me play, it looks easy, but it's not. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat. 10 years from now, I see myself playing the big stages in the Grand Slams and winning titles.
To watch this story and more, download the Citizen Digital app today.
Kenya's #1 app, Citizen Digital.
Niaje? Ni kama unashangaa kwa nini naangalia simu with so much focus eh? Usishangae sana. Ni vile nimekuwa ndani ya story kabisa. Ni kama ile hali ya juzi. Ni kama nilikuwa hapo iki happen. And when this new market was being opened, ni kama nilikuwa hapo tu. Hata vile local tourists for a special rate at the coast, I was there. And when this new road was being commissioned, I was right there. Na hata wewe, unaweza kuwa ndani ya story wherever you are. Just download Citizen Digital.
Stay informed on all the news and events as they happen across the country, the continent, and the world at large. Download Citizen Digital, Kenya's #1 news app.
Chenro ni miyo ngeso ka ngeso okinyi bedo maber kendo maler moloyo. Ma opogore en mor nyadiriyo, puonj nyadiriyo, kod yore mag manyo mor kod yweyo nyadiriyo. Ka watudore kod osiepe moa kuonde mopogore opogore Kenya ka, yud thuolo mar bedo mamor kod miel manyasani. Taekwondo, mchongwano,
nasikia kina Briana ni wadozi hadi wanapeleka kuku kwa kinyozi.
Dusruok,
Uongo ndo wewe.
kod moko mamit.
Sitandawili.
Rogo mar nyithindo mana e Ramogi TV. Be injal molap dogenda onelaro komoro moro ma siasa to dwala dosira mari e yo makare e nengo moyweyo. Ornwa email e ramogiSales@rollmedia.co.ke kata yo atolne Moses namba mar 0725451432 kata ne Nicodemus namba mar 07285985.
Sharon Ongao ka an Nairobi ma Ramogi TV.
Be ing'eyo ni kong'o kawo dakika 6 kende mondo chak loko buongo.
Gik masiko timore ngimane miyo bedo gi penjo mang'eny.
An anyalo
timone gima rach ahinya Tapki. Nono nyalo bedo jasiki maduong'.
Kabe onyalo bedo gimoro e ngimane. To hera ma en go kuom joode miyo otemo umogi gi yore te.
Ing'e ni kawuono Tapki ochako miyi ngima machielo.
Akwayi ni ikonywa wate.
Tapki wuok tich nyaka ngeso saa 2:15 e Ramogi TV.
We didn't know that Eva was admiring him secretly.
Sometimes I tend to believe that my love is itosha msichana moja. And naturally I was born a polygamous person.
3 of us, we are enough for him. Like, we are not going to allow him to bring another one.
To watch this story and more, download the Citizen Digital app today.
Kenya's #1 app, Citizen Digital.
Introducing a new way to earn cash every time you buy airtime. Simply dial *487*2#. Buy airtime, pay for electricity or water bills for you or someone else, and get paid papo hapo. Usinunue airtime na tokens bure bure tu. Earn instantly with *487*2#. Dial *487*2# now.
Nekoromoga juan kamoro mora mintiere machiegni e okang' mar ariyo ma en twak e chenro mar mbaka oromo kama bendo duchi makawuono kodong' ndalo 17. Wago mana mbaka kaluwore kod telo mag counties. Wanono telo mag counties ahinya matiyo sani mabende tok yiero mar chieng' tarik 9 dwe mar 8 gibiro bedo ka giwuok mar mondo mi telo mamoko mar mondo mi odonji. Koka mano na penjo e mbuiwa mar Facebook kachi idwara Ramogi TV nitie penjo mabende no penji ka bende gavana mari nosetioni e yo makare kaluwore gi singo mabende nochiwoni. Abiro mana somo moko kuom ote. Jacinta Peyo iwacho ni Awiti cha bende nigi singo adier. Awiti na nigi singo kendo singo mar Awiti wabiro bedo kata mana kwano no iye wakini. Singo mar higa mar 2013 nyaka higa mar 2022. Bende Jackie Nyarmudi iwacho ni an county mawuoke mano county ma Siaya. Iwacho ni ne waonge governor, he did nothing. Joash Oner iwacho ni okaneno na Homa Bay ka Awiti pod siro ka bende iwacho ni Awiti neno ka nokotimo gimoro amora kanyo. Minzonia iwacho ni okaneno na gima gavana mara otimo, gik mane osingo okotimo, mano county ma Siaya. Fred Achila imbena ni kanyo gi pachi ka bende iwacho ni Europe kae nyong'o ler swaya tano tena. Baba Hensi bende iwacho ni Kisumo anyang' nyong'o notemo. Joyce Achieng iwacho ni onge kata gima na Rasanga otimo. Bende paro bende pod ng'eny moko bende no kago governors ma bende moko kuom gi bende kanyakra na somo e yamo ka. Ntiere Odhis Senior iwacho ni apenjo ni Awiti bende na en kata mana governor e county ma Homa Bay adier onge gimoro amora mosetimo. Iwacho ni okaneno na. Nitiere bende Philip Otieno iwacho ni devolution poko chope county ma Homa Bay. Nyangonde iwacho ni we as people of Migori we elected Okoth Obado and he absolutely did nothing, very painful. Geoffrey Dika iwacho ni 111 no onge gima na gavana marwa otimo. Iwacho ni Awiti Akubo onge gima notimo kanyo. Magi mana moko kuom paro mabende giwacho. Singo mag governors gi nyakora mag juang. Kapo nono ni governors magi kata mana e counties mabende wacho ntiere janeno marwa mabende penjo kapo neno ni Cyprian Awiti mano governor e county ma Homa Bay chakre higa mar 2013 nyaka sani ka bende nantiere gi singo mare. Governor Awiti na nigi singo. Singo magi nyakora mag juang noriwo weche mag thieth. Noriwo bere weche mag somo, nitiere weche mag limbe mabende nowacho no obiro bero e county ma Homa Bay. Nitiere weche mag arita kwe kaluwore gi singo mare mar higa mar 2013 nyaka higa mar 2022. Koriwo weche mag manufacturing infrastructure mago gedo mag apeni. E county ma Homa Bay samoro inena in jadak e county ma Homa Bay, inja luto mbulu e county ma Homa Bay. Bende magi duto nochopie kata mana dwaro kaluwore gi singo mar Gavana Awiti Cyprian chakre higa mar 2013 nyaka sani. King'e mana moko kuom nderni weche mag thieth e kaunti ma Homa Bay kaluwore gi weche mag thieth midenga, aneno ka Awiti nowacho e singo mare ni obiro neno ni oket modern health facilities mago ute thieth manyasani e kaunti ma Homa Bay. Ka bende wacho ni achiel kuom okenge ma bende nodwaro mar mondo mi otieki ahinya kedo koda mano tuo mar kata mana mano HIV and AIDS tuo kata mana ayaki e kaunti ma Homa Bay. Magi duto bende osetimo. Od thieth e kaunti ma Homa Bay kata mana County Referral Hospital, Homa Bay County Referral Hospital nitiere okang' machalo nade. Magi duto nyaka Ramogi Ajuanga isumonwa paro. E kaunti ma Siaya mana kaka nwawacho, kaunti ma Siaya bende gisani Gavana Masia Cornel Rasanga bende osechiwo kuom thuolo mar terms 10 korka kori okil kikete ratil tije mage dimiye achiel ewi adi kwachako gi kanyo.
Abo wacho ni mokwongo kapok adhi kanye bono ni jopiny gin jok mariek kabisa. Kendo bono ne those comments seche magineno gi nyisi kidhi e ground mane gima timore. Onge ng'ama omedo chumbi kanyo. Kwa dhi e kaunti mar Siaya, asewuotho e Siaya kaunti mang'eny from kumoro luongo Tingwangi midhi nyaka iye nyaka town. Ibo yudo ni giminyalo wacho ni pogruok obede. Nitiere ot moro marachar ma iluongo ni White House. Siaya County ibo yudo ni en county matin, to onge pogruok marasango osetimo for the last 10 years. Onge gimo difference mibo wacho ni governor ni legacy mane mobo pare godo onge.
Nitiere roundabout moro ma josel sebedo kata mana ka goe picha keni weche mag nderni ya peini.
Nitiere roundabout moro ma kite mokade kanyo ma en gima wich kuot kabisa, especially gimoluongo ni CBD. Magi gik moko ningo be magi they're not jokes, gin gik madieri kabisa. En gima lit ahinya ni seche ma jogi donje telo to omi chek kata omi power mar oversee pesa mathoth kamano to iwuok makata gimora mora monenre. Seche ma iwuok kamano oningo bed ni wa dayo dhogi ni to in kan wami telo difference mani kata pogruok mani misebedo kitimo ne jopiny. Kipenje ibo nyisi gik ma anyisi go ni kia bohol bomba kia ngo gik moko maonge gin big jokes. So gik mineno kamano ibo nyisi ni bomba kia achiel kende milion 100 gima nyalo kata kawo mana 10 million 90 odonje i ng'ato. Koro
nano ka tingni moko e gazeti odiche ma kawuono tingni moko no nyiew Siaya kacha e nengo moro mamalo man wadhi lose kaka mano Charles we wang make gi kanyo wadhi e kaunti ma Kisumu. Nyaka Ramogi Ajuanga chenro mar mbako romo kaka pile waja sumo paro bende gi jopiny gisane odaro dhi achiel kachiel nyaka e kaunti ma Kisumu. Wawinja nene Gavana Masani Anyang' Nyong'o ma bende gisani koro dhi katieko ramna tam ne mar 5 pod ochung' kacha mar dok kende e kom makamano bende osetiyo negi. Millicent Adhiamba musi ni misawa kaunti ma Kisumu chiyo nade to inyalo mana chwalonwa twak e kaunti ma Kisumu. Millicent bana kiwinja aneni yo makare mana kinyalo mana chwako kata mana bagonwa twak makama. Oganda e kaunti ma Kisumu de wach nango kaluwore gi telo mano mar Anyang' Nyong'o kuom thuolo mar higni 5 makoro tieko.
Pero kama nenya Sharon achiel kachiel kwa uke kardak manyalenda kuma bende wadaka upachiko pin kote record tije mabende county government osetimo. Wayudo ni county government chako record tenda lensi mano MCA to gi kod tend governor. Wadi angene ka jopiny gi endi gin bende kwa migni 5 manegi kitero jotelo mopogore elemo mag siasa mondo mi otinegi. Bende jotelo gi ochopo singo manegi singo negi ndalo manegi luto negi ombulu koso maendi gimoko timore. Machiegni ahinya abro chako kodi mondo nyisa ni in kaka in ni yiero MCA ni yiero MP mari senator women rep nyaka governor bineno katelo agoe ko igni 5 mosekalo jotelo mane yiero go bende gichopo singo kata gitimo gigo mane gisingo ne jopiny gibro timo. Ngi kamera.
Ero kamano kawuoyo an nyinga Arawe iluongo ni Rosa Adhiambo Orlando kata inyalo luonga ni Nyagem. An kawuoyo kanyo tawacho ni tich mosetire nyaka ne governor chak tiyo okaseneno kotiyo marach town tinde waneno ka ler kendo town olos kendo ber kabisa kawadoko ta senator be okanyal wacho maber nikech tich manomigi ni gitiyo okanyal donjo ahinya but achaka donjo central kar ka waneno kotire maber kabisa skunde waneno ka MP omedonwa maber kendo MP oloso skunde gi e yo maber kabisa maonge gimo manyalo ne wacho ni rach kata mana MCA mara aneno kogeronwa chirni wan godo kar ka kendo wause onge sama wasebedo ka kwaus kanyo kata kijuogo be waneno kijuogo maber ma ok dang wayuagi nikech nyaka wajuogie ka waneno gimo atimo ka kiloko handi moro matin ei kilo wakar ka waneno ka chirni gi kikonyo mine kabisa kendo mino yie godo onge sama miyo nyalo ywak ni onge chiro monyalo ka onyalo petho piny en manano onyalo loso gik moko kaka dwaro to uso alode jomoko uso lewni jomoko uso cham jomoko uso gik moko mag ginene koro kanyo agoero kamano kendo gimaero kamano magoe maduong ni nyoro nyodwoknwa bech moro chien nyoro nyowa chiemo maonge ng'at mo manyalo wacho no ko chieme ode awuoyo maber ahinya
kamano ahinya machiegni in kaka in chakre telo mochakore MCA nyaka gaba neno ka tend county ma Kisumu manifesto mane gimiyo wigni abich mokalo bende gichopo e tim kaka ne giwacho.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my names are Bernard Omondo Chieng, but I'm famously known by Opila Manuar, Serikal Matiyo Kilo Junction. Okay, because I'm not very good in the law, I will just speak the language I can talk. Okay, let me just abide by it, but even if I spoil, don't mind about it. Kawuyo kuom county government ma Kisumu, ahero mar wacho ne jo Kenya te, ni governor moa nitie mano ng'ama jatich mano mokwongo gimotimo ma anyalo paro ne jo Kenya te ni nochiko ni odhi golo takataka moro ne chando ji e ndara kama ne waluwo miluongo ni Kachok ogolo moketo kanyo obedo forest masani wan gi small forest ma kata kiol tinyalo dhi yweyo kanyo mano 1 2 governor otimo gimiluongo ni cleaning the city an na winjo ka moyo wacho ni Kisumu en city but ne ok ang'eyo ni en city mane today nyongo oketo Kisumu obedo city bang'eyo 1 oluoko city mo oloso town ma town obedo kaka idwaro town an kaka ng'eye oloso gimora mora mo kao mine okao chuo johala te mo o distribute estate ka estate sani kidhi Obunga kidhi Manyata kidhi Kilo kama chungeni ibro yudo ko ohalo yaw kamora mora ji nyalo uso nyake tie ot kamidake ng'ato ka ng'ato nyalo yudo pesa
so much abakawo pachna machielo madama piyo piyo
ero kamano ani lunga ni Ouma achung ka an japeng ma Kilo kachako ge governor marwa Professor Nyang' Nyong'o gik mano promise wa no dhi timo otemo kaka professor kaka wang'e gi nyinge nochiko wa ni odhi yawo sewer system otemo kar monyalo nonyiso wa noloso about thieth e Nyalenda bi ka wan gi health center Dunga nowacho ni odhi golo taka Kachok nogolo governor wa marwa no promise wa ni ler mar Nyalenda bi odhi kelo Nyalenda kuma wantiere ni ber kabisa kadhi e senator marwa okotiyo tich mane oyierene nodonjo mana mar laro telo gi governor kanodonjo ochako mana go siasa onge chieng' mwawinjo kowacho gimoro maber manyalo konyowa kaka jopiny corruption manonego bed ni osiemonwa ok osiemonwa MCA marwa ma Nyalenda nyaka kawuono gima wanyalo kwanego en mana lal wanyalo ng'eye kaka ng'at ma olal moko ng'eyo ni jok manoyiere ni kanye nyaka kawuono mwaloso ni pok wanene kaka ne watere waduogo kar MP marwa Fred Ouda otemo kuom skunde otemo loso choche olosonwa mak mana ni ok onyal tiyo 100%. Wabiro kar women rep e Nyalenda bika wan gi chiro mar rech Dunga ma women rep marwa nokelonwa miyo wan kaka jo Nyalenda bi waneno gik mang'eny e telo mar Profesa Anyang' Nyong'o. Erokamano.
Erokamano ahinya. Mana kamano kaka iwinjo Sharon, gisekwano moko kuom jotendgi, gigo mag jotendgi nosetimo kotenore kod manifesto ma bende ne jotelo noyango negi higni 5 mokalo. Sani ginyalo wuok, jomoko bende Nyasaye kotelo negi to nyalo nuore tielo machielo. Ka kamano nikech seche mayowa wang'wa, ang' naduok ni oporo mondo idhi nyime mondo weche gi ang' wamed luonu. Ka be gisani ng'eyo ni weche mag nyayo kwe dhi timore e dala mar Nyalenda kaendi. Ka bende mano bende wadwa luwo achiel kachiel mondo wakelnu gigo madhi timore gi kuku gi duto. Sharon, an kuomi nyalo dhi nyime gi seche ni.
Erokamano ahinya Millicent. Dhiambo kuom bagonwa twak e kaunti ma Nairobi. Wasewinjo pach oganda kama jodak e kaunti ma Nairobi ja kwara Ramogi Jwang'. Pod warito winjo jo kaunti ma Homa Bay, Migori, Siaya, uwachango tendu na chal nade. Telo ma bende gisani koro kodong' mana gi ndalo 17 wadhi yiero kata mana jotelo manyien. Charles Midega, iwinjo jo Kisumu.
Winjo jo Kisumu maler kabisa. Kenda bo isi ni mana weche mano wacho ka. Jo Kisumu jok ma wangwana. Gibo isi ni mae gima timore. Mok gimedo kata matin. To mane gima kelo pogruok between jatelo ni to gi jatelo machalo machielo. Gik ma gineno ginyisigo kidhi e ground sani ibo confirm ni wuon. Nitiere order. Town obed city, obed kata town matin kata center. Nyaka bed gi order. Nyaka bed ni oler. Abo yisi ni kidhi okada dwela ahinya Migori County, but sani kidhi Migori County. Gidhe chunye kanyo ibo yudo ni Migori County ema pod geche ineno ka matatuge. Pod nitie mana chuny boma, kawo mana je tiendara ka to Migori.
Bus parks wonge go Migori.
Bus park nitiere to ka onge order wan gimiluongo ni brake and motor technology ni ng'ato gero stage to ka osegero stage to onge maintenance. Mar ariyo onge supervision. Mar adek onge ng'at manyalo ng'iyo ni chikolo. Koro yudo ni kata stage no be ji ok tigo, ji pod mana tie ndara. Ibiro ni Migori kandi olil chakre bocho ni from kumoro luongo ni posta kayo nyaka malo total. Ibiro opend tiangi, there is no order at all. Koro ipenjo ni kana ne jok ma e dara mar usafi to jo gin gitimo ang'o. Mane mabokeli difference kidhi e town ni town to aneno ka wuon ka aneno ka en ng'ama longo to kumachielo kama gik mineno wanyalo wacho gite unyalo wene gin gik matindo tindo, but they add up to the all order of the place. Na nyisi kanwa dhi break. Nyong'o owacho ni onge goyo campaign e CBD. Onge jatelo ma obiro ka kiko it ji gi speaker gi auja. Biane Nairobi ka. Kidhi tok ofisa nyisi nitiere ng'at moro astare ka nigi speaker madongo dongo makamuoche ndara to wiwinjo nyaka ot ndeko nyaka files ni. Kor mage gik matindo, but there is order. Ibo yudo ka there's a very big difference. To mage gik mo add up to the larger thing mwaluongo ni governance. Yeah. Kidhi Homa Bay. Abo yisi ni Homa Bay nigi gimiluongo ni historical significance. Ni nitiere the larger South Nyanza district. Kidhi Homa Bay kichaka from nitiere setu moro kara ni Sofia. Kitu nyatwenya kamalo the former Kadisi koja chande. Onge pogruok pre-devolution 2010 to gi 2022. Ang'o minyalo neno ma pogruok nitiere? The ANEC Homa Bay referral. Actually, it does not even deserve name mar referral. En gima kata cattle di maigwengo enge. Even the structure mar Homa Bay referral hospital no. Kedhi kanyo ibo yudo kata ni otanda chiel. Dhano oninde kata mana ji adek. Ipenji ni jotelo man office gin gitimo ang'o? Gichamo sara nang'o?
To bende parni kata mana Homa Bay kata mana kotenre gi weche mag limbe. Homa Bay bende mantiere gi Ruma National Park, kar limbe marauma mabere moloyo.
Homa Bay ogwedhi weri kata gi National Park. Kes National Park no ng'ato bo wacho ni it is under the national government, Kenya Wildlife Service. Nitiere kanyo gik ma very obvious. Kata ibo wacho mana ni kitane kata mana fish processing plant. I'm very passionate about that because anaja lupo kidhi na. Kidhi dala na ibo yudo ni just 2 meters to chopo kuchucho. Mago gik mapok ni winjo kata ka governor talo. Jo lupo tena gima iluongo ni subsistence. Ogole yie ka to uso ngege moro siling 100 to chamete. Kinyo chako dok oywa tonde ne iwinyo gi jo fisheries. Onge gima sirkal nyalo nyisi. Gibo nyisi mageni gi some scapegoats. Ni kiama resources mar national government, but any county money. Ka any resources mar national government, why don't you have collaboration with national government in consultation? Mondo nane kaka ni where do we meet? Here kumarome mondo jopinyo konyre. onge gimoro achiel minyalo kwano with tremendous respect to Governor Weti. Minyalo wacho ni Governor Weti otemo Homa Bay. Minyalo wacho ni kada ka nyamabo wacho somo history kara mana 100 years to come. Ne nitie governor moro mokwongo mar Homa Bay. 10 years mano bede telo ne ang'o manotimo. And this is very fair. Kada ka unyalo bedo interview. Obojisi wawagi any Homa Bay ma Homa Bay. Bo nyisi ni there is nothing at all. Kara supporters
gebe. Namna moko kuom gibede do wacho ni Homa Bay bende nigi governor diere. Nitiere kara moko kuom ote ma bende donjo kama thoth.
Yeah, because
mano Homa Bay Siaya Migori bende no ka gimulo ka.
Yes,
Kisume magi wacho ni governor nyongo tema matek.
It's a great concern. En concern maduong' ma jopiny ananweyoga pile ne jopiny jomarie gima japiny nyisi no en adier. Wakalo kuonde moko machon mane jotelo biro to puonjowa ka nyithi skul ni ada timonu gini ada timo kama. Sani kedhi e gweng' to japiny bo nyisi ni weriaso kanyo mano tok mari mano idara machielo.
Charles gisani bende gidhi nyime gi kisera magi magombolo higa makata mana kineno governors mosetieko mthulu mag higni 10 gi magi bende gin mana singo ma bende na gintiere godo japiny koneno kata ni weche mag somo idwa ketna makare weche mag thieth weche mag telo makare miyo japiny dhi to yiere sani pod gintiere pod mana gi singo makamagi jochung kata mana wach ni poko bedo kata mana kom kaka mag governors ach kata mana ni kaka senator Masiaya senator Masiaya James Orengo gi jalupne William Oduol gi bende na gigolo manifesto margi ma bende gidhi timo ne jopiny e county Masiaya. Senator Orengo bende osebedo senator county Masiaya osebedo jatelo kuom thuolo malach. Singo mar Orengo giluonge ni nyalore.
Yes.
Akeni bende ni senene kata mana kidienje mentiere godo.
Manifestos gete kada singo go te nase interago nase somogi manyalo kada isi dhie page makama matielo to wacho kikawo kada mar Orengo mar Ogumbo no asewacho seche ming'iyo mar Orengo no ing'iyo ni Orengo akanyi to dhi kanyi to be fair to him man en senator to ibo wacho ni role ne kada legal mandate ne mar senator ne chalo nade. A senator wan gi parliament ma wan ilongo ni National Assembly to gi Senate collective term ilongo ni member of parliament to their collective duty and oversight. Koribo penje joningo penje ni to seche miketo Orengo tago maliet kane en senator beno timo his oversight role beno check rasanga to kibi penje ni kane in senator ni to beni kelo ndara that is not his role iwinjo mano mokwongo. Mar ariyo nyaka ing'i ni to gik motemo gi nyalore it means ni gimilongo ni self belief wan gwenge masiche moko inyalo wacho ni to because of self belief emomiyo wan ka if you don't believe in yourself onge anyalo believe on your behalf ini wuone ming'eyo kuma wuoche digo ini ming'eyo kuma yagi kuma idhiye. Koro Orengo temo nyiso josiaya ni wantie kama wadhi kama ere kaka wanyalo chopo kanyo. Gima date nyiso jopiny ni onge ng'ama perfect, everyone nigi imperfections mage but wabiro fair to jotelo gite kata Gumbo ko biro to ko wacho singo mare kata manifesto timiye thuolo Orengo be timiye thuolo because tide wan gi apart from chomani interact mana gi poster ng'ato manifesto wuok ni to within 2 seconds isenene WhatsApp Facebook kata Twitter YouTube actually sijo mobedo launched okochuno ni nyaka idhi Siaya iwatch Facebook live iwinjo. Koro that technological advancement and the piny and a very small unit, a very global, a global village. Koro wabera jok mahore, jok manyayo kwe, toge.
Kata mani ratil, ang'e ni sani koro kata mana kene nyayo kwe, ratil sani mano governor masani, Masiaya. Mong'ere kaka Cornel Rasanga, kaka notiyo. Nen gi senator mare mano James Orengo mabende gisani koro dok laro komba. Bende neno ka senator notimo tije, eng'iyo tije ma governor natimo.
Senator notemo kabisa, kendi boyudo ni Orengo iluonge ni gimilongo gi dho wagunda ni astute debater. En ng'at ma kubede parliament ni koro da wuoyo. That visibility alone en bahati katawi maber ne county. Nitere jok makitere Senate kata mana National Assembly gin ninda ma ante jok moko ma interago ngacho ni ng'ani en MP mawa let me say in Northeastern pok na nene kata onge bill mano setere parliament kes mago gik moningo be gitimo. Koro jopiny nyalo make that distinction ni ndalo mane ntiere bill mani manotero twak mani manowacho ewi Siaya ma to me anyalo bedo fair ne ni notemo kabisa. Koro no meet expectation mare to ma ng'at mosebedo ka fight for democracy even historically. Wan wadwaro jo liberators jok mosebedo ka fight for the second liberation for so long to rengo gi ni ochamo tear gas maromo nade. Iwinjo. To gimotemo wacho ni kik ng'ato bi gi self entitlement nyako owuothi door to door, dhot ka dhot, kowacho ni an adhi kwa kura kama. Bedo gi ODM is not enough. Kes japiny be nigi latitude, nigi power munyalo yiero ng'at moro amora dwaro. Ibed achung' kenda kata independent, ibed ja any other party. Yes, oyieni. Level ma demokrasia osedhi malo ma ok nyal chuni gi ng'ato. Barabo wacho ni I want to be fair to Orengo ni onge kuma nyalo wacho ni nokiere kane en senator mar Siaya County.
Erokamano wakile adwaro mar mondo mi wamul buore Nairobi kama wantiere. Ka inono telo e county ma Nairobi, wang'ini county ma Nairobi wasebedo gi governors ariyo, mano Evans Kidero, to bende wasebedo gi Sonko ma bende koro nothi choke apis. Diwach nang'o kaluwore gi telo e county ma Homa Bay, dongruoge ma bende nitiere e county ma Homa Bay, diwach nang'o?
E county mar Homa Bay?
Ma Nairobi.
Oh, my Nairobi, sorry. Abo wacho ni just like Kisumu, Nairobi nigi gimiluongo ni a unique status as a city. Koro nitiere interest both mar jopiny, international community to gi national government. Nairobi County ema host gimiluongo ni United Nations Environmental Program or UNEP gigiri. Koro it has that international significance. Nairobi City ema wane gi the state house ka. Ema the executive nitie to gi man assembly or parliament nitiere. Gi judiciary to gi headquarters mag migao te
Tene capital city.
Tene kuma jomanyi yudo kana ni governors pod ama na dala kar mondo gilos kar gi kocha pod onyiewo lo Karen or Lavington. So in a city man gi very many vested interests. Such a city governor mabiro nyaka bed gi a very robust program manyalo kony. Tabo nyise ne from Kidero to Sonko onge giminyalo wacho ni nitiere change. Just take one sector for example, sector mar transport. Abo nyise ni cities ma organized manitiere order. Public transport onge piny private sector. Gik miluongo ni cartel. Kes ja private sector ong'iewo matatu moro 4.5 million. Matatu moro ma almost 26 seater or whatever it is, kata 14 seater, to keto kaya cha matatu onge mokwongo ni kata license, kata mana insurance onge, imake omiyo police silinga pesa matin to dhi mbele. Wadwaro gik miluongo ni tramways, gin dreams but gibiro ga mos. Ng'ama nong'eyo ni expressway bo bedo from Lolongo to Westlands. Kani wacho gino 2010 ng'ato wacho no mileko. We need tramways. Wan gi cities makata underground ji wuotho to reru nitiere piny kuchocho. To magi moko chono ni nyaka implemented during your tenure. Ninyalo chako gino within 5 years to successive government nigo obligation mar implement.
Kata mna allocations mag pesa.
Yes.
County ma Nairobi donge manichiwo kata mna omenda mathoth.
Apart from omenda michiwo ne county ma Nairobi, collection mar revenue ma Nairobi is so high compared to others. To gitimango. I want to give an example on transport. One gi Green Park, Uhuru Park kacha. Green Park osebedo kiyawe gi postpone. Gi postpone because it was total blunder and mess. Onge ka genyalo implement situmoko ni nyisi ni out of 1000 matatus ni 100 sijui per watt. Mondo drop G o kaw G o genyal. Mago gik ma we don't need. Dhano obede e geche gi ng'ato achiel kachiel e private vehicles e town ka not because ni odwaro. Dhano shoulder loans madongo dongo mondo yud comfort because kidhie matatu mokwongo ni kinyiso driver ni duok volume no tiyanye. Mar ariyo matatu no lil. Koro yudo ni ng'ato inyore ka chulo loan mondo bede private vehicle ni case transport, public transport is in a mess. To maigi ma governors mar visionary nyalo wacho niya gimotimuru wakeluru order and okochuno ni nyaka ban matatus. Inyalo bira gi competition because wane gimino ni free market economy. Inyalo bira gi alternative. Jopiny onge alternative. Makara jo matatu ka to wacho ni kato koro jogo nyalo wakoro wadhi uru dala wawe sirkal oti. Mano is just one example. Another example en wach mag water and so on. Iboyudo ka dhi anywhere. Pi onge.
Kopogore gi pi bende nitiere taka, weche mag taka.
Weche mag taka to koro tinde cartels ema chieme. Nikech kuonde moko lil, iyudo ni other places iyweyo, kuonde moko ok ywe. To be fair to Kidero, during the time manobede, ena gik moko mi massage matin ni kia wal keto beds mama Lucy, kia watema ng'owa, gik moko ma ok kel, wadwaro robust change. Change manyalo yiengo kumoro, muwache niya, mato change adieri.
To tend Sonke County ma Nairobi neno nade?
Koro that is the worst, because Sonko mikongo ni ne en gi several scandals, manyaka deputy mare Gadhi nogwe tao. Ka deputy ni okinya tiyo gogwe tao, it shows a very big thing. Mar ariyo en ng'at manobedo impeached, to masa ni koro wanyalo wacho gi mijingo, nikech doho mamalo Supreme Court no se pronounce itself. Koro waonge gi subjudice rule. Onge gima bwana notimo. Kendo ineno ni gik mane mabadi timo under Nairobi Metropolitan Service. Ok gin gik minyalo wacho ni magi ideas ge mobirogo. En gima nakuongo nyisi ni wan gi gimiluongo ni County Integrated Development Plan. Manotamo Kidero implement Nairobi, motamo Sonko implement. Ema badi timo. At least nyalo ni nitiere pogruok matin here and there, some order, I mean, ler moko nitiere here and there. To magi e gik makelo pogruok between person A gi person B. To manotamo ji mang'eny. Koro we need, wadwaro jotelo mapachgi lew, manyalo tero jopiny kuma nwadhie next move.
Tingini bende japiny bende kata mana kiwacho ni wadwaro jatelo mapachgi lew. Japiny kata mana sani makoro wacho muyiero ne. Ginyalo ng'e nade ni jatelo ni pache lew. Kopogore kata mana gi manifesto. Chenro ma bende nitiere. Dong chenro ka gigole ma wang'e ni maparo maliw ma bende nitiere godo.
Let me tell you ne wanyise ni gina sawacho mang'eny. Jopiny nigi solution mar jotelo magidwaro. Japiny te mana gik moko ariyo. Mokwongo ne japiny underestimate teko ma en godo e ballot. Winjo, sami kwano ballot ni achiel, kese en ombulu maling' kada secret ballot. Sami kwano ni achiel, onge ubaguzi ni ma achiel mar japeny, ma mar professor, ma mar en achiel. Mane teko mar japiny. Mar ariyo momiyo japiny ok nyal make that difference. En ni wang'iyo gik moko matindo tindo mok nyal konyowa. Kaso wachako regret, wabo chako politics for the next 5 years. Kwa regret ni ng'ani waketo kata onge gima notimo. Jopiny ong'eyo. Koro oningo jopiny ong'e ni telo ni lwetgi. Mana ane injili mawachoga everywhere. Telo ni lwet makitamre ng'ato ok ti. Kata chama mani bi. Kata bi mana gi independent. Kata bi mana gi mani to jopiny bo nyisi ni ito ok oromo tiyo. Yeah. Manifesto nyalo bedo ni nyalo sero, lakini jomoko bende joma dhogi mit, obiro gi manifesto kodonjo goja to onge. Gima no promise koro ok unegi matimo.
Dongo bende ber kata mana ka japiny ng'iyo. Acha mana ni kuom ranyisi governors magwa makalumo osetiyo kuom thuolo mar higni 10. Higni 5 mokwongo kosetiyo. Ing'iyo ni mage manotimo, mage manosingo nodhi timo to kendo dhi timo adier. Ichake yiere kendo sama kata mana wan kaka jopiny bende wang'iyo kata mana josingo koso wawinjo gima jotelo wacho. Yier chama, yier ng'ane.
No, ineno kata jo chama seche ma gibiro go kura gikawo ng'uti gi jok karwath madhi pur ni donje debe. Ok chuni. Jo chama be gin gi haki gi mar kelo sera gi. Enana kisera. Iwacho mane hata dhi timonu kama yiena utok wach ni nyaka to. Pok nobedo nyaka to. Emomiyo jo chama be nigi ratiro mare gi ka ging'iyo katiba chama ka chama ni katiba mare. Ma teko chiko yienegi mar yiero, mar welo. Ka giwacho ni en universal suffrage kata mano mbulu, kata giwacho mani direct nomination, to be mano ginyalo timo. Koro kuma japiny donje en mana thego ruedhi yiero maduong'. Mano ma koro japiny wacho ni un wacho kama, to koro aneno ni ma yo monego bed ni waluwo. Sama itimo kamano onge ng'ama ochuni ni to nyaka igochne chama, in nyaka igochne independent.
Giko odiochieng' yiero en ma japiny.
En mari kendo oyieni seche midhi bedo kacha en ratiro mari ni kendo kaka tekono tiume ma onge ng'ama nene nyaka ang' iele kikwane.
Chasa no ka sa ringo mapiyo wasomo kuom weche ma bende donjo nikech odiochieng' ma kawuono ma en twak mar jopiny. Ahinya e gwenge mago mag Kaluo bende wasenono, wasedayo, governors mawuok ma bende osetieko lemo margi mano mar higni 10. Bende wan e gima Duncan Ogola iwacho ni Siaya ene mana lando 6 piece, onge gima timore. Samson Ochieng iwacho ni Sonko nobedo impeached an kora onge governor. Difrey Ojei iwacho ni Kisumu East kanyo bende wacho ni Anyang' Nyong'o osetiyo ni yo makare. Constella mwenyewe iwacho ni adier makende en ni governors ma piny luo masani dhi yweyo. Ne gihadho omenda buora mag dongruok. Giwuotho ka piny luo gi huma nono wira ni jamna mar jopiny ni emimiel godo. Mano paro mochiw kanyo gi Constella mwenyewe. Lucas Olewe bende wacho ni wan kaka Homa Bay wan waonge governor. Ne wan gi governor to governor chik okoyie ne timo tije mage kaka governor. Mano bende paro ma bende ochiwo ka ma bende ogwenya matis ni to governor chik okoyie ne timo tije mag governor ka en governor marwa. Mane paro ma bende ichiwo gi Lucas Olewe. Owacho ni wan Homa Bay ne waonge governor, ne wan gi governor to chik okoyie ne timo tije mag governor.
Aparo ni mano kadiero koyo gimawacho ahinya but aboise ni aparo ni gimotemo wacho en ni kaka governor otiyo chalo ni nitiere rem moko implement gik monego bed ni otimo but nitiere chike mang'eny mayiene governor timo gimodwaro kichik mondo kel dongruok. Seche ma governor tiyo bedo ni osire gi jok mopogore opogore. Wan gi jok manacho ni the county executive chief officers to gi county public service board. Mago is the whole executive a governor. Mosire to migawo ka migawo nigi ng'at motelo ne gik moneno wachogi.
Erokamano, we achungi mana matis moso kil. Wadwa dhi nyaka e doho ma Milimani odiochieng' ma kawuono kama bende nyakwa Ramogi Ajuang' ing'ado bura mano mar Willy Kimani. Wawinjone e doho ma Milimani gima dhi nyime gi sani.
Now, PW41 Chief Inspector Owino was based at the Flying Squad at Nairobi area on the 24th of June 2016 when officers from IJM, including PW13, PW1 and PW7, visited the station. He stated that upon receiving their report, in consultation with the seniors, he was given the duty to head investigations into the missing persons report. He stated that for purposes of speed and efficiency, he formed a syndicate of 3 teams. Now, one team was led by Inspector Chemelin, who was PW36, assisted by Corporal Olesena at the time, PW44. PW44 was an investigator in cyber investigations with DCI with training in that area. The mandate of the 2 officers was to do the call data analysis and call site analysis that involved analyzing data captured at the various sites and were to follow up with the police Integrity Command and Control Center, that is IC3, that was capable of analyzing movements through data. The second syndicate was headed by Corporal Mucheru, who was PW14, and PC Serem, who was PW28. They were to handle crime scene management. They were to handle all the scenes right from the onset of the investigations. They were to assist in directing what should be done at every scene. PC Serem was from crime scene services and took photographs and measurements of various scenes. The third syndicate was headed by PW41, and he worked with officers including Inspector Makoma, PC Tanui. Their responsibility was to ensure statements of persons who came into contact with the deceased were recorded and analyzed for evidential value. The gist of the prosecution case is that the first accused had a personal vendetta against the second deceased, who had reported him to the IPOA and was relentless in pursuit of the complaint. It is the prosecution case that in order to intimidate the second deceased, the first accused had the second deceased arrested, and in 2 of those occasions had him charged before the court. The cases registered against him were 2. These were Mavoko criminal case number 226 of 2015, and the case file was Exhibit 1A, and the charge sheet was Exhibit 1B. Mavoko traffic case number 1650 of 2015, the case file was Exhibit 2A, and the charge sheet was Exhibit 2B, both before Mavoko Principal Court. In both cases, the first accused was a key witness. By the time the deceased persons died, these 2 cases were still pending before the Principal Magistrates Court at Mavoko. The prosecution is that on the 23rd day of June 2016, when the second deceased was set to attend his hearing in the traffic case, the 5 accused persons connived to have the second deceased arrested. In the process of arresting him, the first and the third deceased who were in the company of the second deceased at the time were equally arrested. It is the case of the prosecution that the 3 deceased were locked up at Syokimau Administration Police Post, also known as Syokimau Administration Chief's Camp, hereinafter the post, at a time when the second accused was in charge and the third accused was on duty as cell sentry and the report office personnel of the post. It is the prosecution's case that the 3 arrested persons were later removed from the post and taken to an open field in Soweto in Mlolongo, where they were murdered, and that their bodies were ferried through Thika Superhighway to Oldonyo Sapu in Kilimambogo area, Machakos County, and their bodies disposed by dumping over a bridge into the River Adi. The bodies were seen inside the river by PW23, a diver and farmer along the banks of River Adi in Kilimambogo. PW23 was bathing along the river bank on the 23rd of 2016 when he saw human legs 100 meters inside the river. A report he made at Donyosapu police station did not yield any action from the police that day. The police went to the scene the following day, that is 30th of June 2016. On the 30th of June, the 2 bodies of the first and the third deceased were retrieved from the river with the help of PW3 and his neighbor, David Gatumbi. The third body of the second deceased was recovered from the same river the following day, that is on the 1st of July 2016. Upon post-mortem, the pathologists opined that the deceased had succumbed to injuries inflicted by blunt force trauma and strangulation. The prosecution relied on a statement under inquiry, which was Exhibit 90, recorded from the 5th accused by PW38 on the 9th of August 2020. Indicated conspiracy of the planning and execution of the 3 deceased. As accused as a member of SPIF team at Mlolongo, that in early May 2016, while the 5th accused was at the Mlolongo police canteen, the first accused approached him and told him that he needed his assistance, but did not disclose the nature of the assistance required until the end of May 2016. He stated that the first accused called him on phone and they planned to meet at Connections Bar Mlolongo. That is when he told him of a situation where he shot and injured a man on a motorcycle and that the man was pushing for him to be sacked and jailed with the help of IPOA. That is how the murder was choreographed. The role that the 5th accused was to play was to track the second deceased within Mavoko locals on 23rd of June 2016, where the second deceased was attending the hearing of the case against him. The statement discloses the entire coordination in executing the plot, the court attendance, the kidnap at a railway crossing, their detention at Syokimau Post,
Ne kormaga juanga manene bura mar nek mar Willy Kimani wago mos kaluore gi weche mago mag tudruok ahinya mag mako picha. Mano nek mar Willy Kimani mabendo duchi makawuono bura mare ingado e doho ma Milimani mantiere buore Nairobi kaindi. Bende parni chenro mar mbako romo aneno kanyo ka en saa 5 gi dakika 2. Manyiso ni koro kidieny mar twak e chenro mar mbako romo nego bedni watieko mar mondo mi wadonje kidieny machielo. Mano kidieny mogik e chenro mar mbako romo mar mondo mi ayud weche manyien mabende timore e aluora marwa. Odiochieng' ma kawuono twak e chenro mar mbaka oromo nogo mana sigana mbaka makende mar nono sirikande mag gwenge kaka osebedo katiyo ka bende gisani koro wachomo yiero maduong'. Nwantiere ka gi wakili Charles Midenga. Charles Midenga, abiro chiwoni thuolo mogik mar wacho pachi mogik bang'e watieko chenro makama.
Erokamano Sharon, kapok awacho wach mogik abo wacho ni agomos kuom mosenindo Willy Kimani. En osiepna kendo lane colleague manawuothogo kabisa kata 2016 we were so much involved. Emomiyo gino nomeny momiyo sani koro oyudo justice. Otherwise dobedo abeda forced disappearance kata mana those extrajudicial killings matimorega. Ang'eni familia mare boyudo justice kata an ka bodhi Milimani kawono lawyers dibedo gi gimloni purple ribbon in solidarity from here. Mogik aboiso jopiny telo ni elwetwa. Wan mwawuoyo kane ok wachuno ng'ato ni nyaka igochne ng'ane kata ng'ane. Watemo mana golo odok e iti to wanyisi ni kaber to kamae koni en puonjruok. Koro tarik 9 ma just ndalo moko 17 from now, they make a very good decision. Paro maler, you vote ne ng'ama idwaro, ibed gi kwe, kik idhaw gi jirani, kik iyie mondo oti kodi gi jasiasa mar ketho ne ng'ato campaign kata mar yanyo ng'ato e Facebook. Nitiere bloggers koro kwatieko ago erokamano, wabed uru gi kwe mondo wamed Kenya odhi maber.
Erokamano ahinya. Nyakoro mgejua wadok kendo e doho ma Milimani kama bura mar nek mar Willy Kimani dhi nyime. Mano mabende emawewi godo gi lak seche gieki.
Could be used by any officer in the team. He stated that phone exhibit 36 on the 22nd of June, but left it charging at the police station. That when he did not find it, he took exhibit 25 from the charger where it was charging. He explained that he did not use the police radio phone exhibit 25 to call his own radio phone as he did not know its number, but decided to use it instead. He stated that he stayed with that phone exhibit 25 for 3 days, including the date of his arrest on the 1st of July 2016 when it was seized by a flying squad from him. He stated that at the time of his arrest he was carrying an official pistol and that he had proceeded to flying squad offices where he had been summoned using his personal vehicle. It was KBX 479G. Defense witness number 10 in cross-examination informed the court that he issued the first accused with a police radio with exhibit 36 as he posted him to Mlolongo police station after his transfer to Athi River sub-county. Now, the first accused testified that he met Josephat Mwenda for the first time on the 10th of April 2015 when he was called by the OCS, Chief Inspector Moses Wambogo, to go for patrol. That while on patrol that day, the OCS had received a message from village elders that there was a place youth were meeting to play cards, that the report was the youth became pickpocketers in the evenings, that the OCS alerted him and the other officers when the youth started the cards game, to go and apprehend them at around 3 p.m. He testified that while there on that assignment, the second deceased defied his orders to stop, to drop his knife, which he had lifted up as he advanced towards Corporal Jane Ngige, intending to attack her. That it was at that time that he shot him once on the right wrist joint. He testified that he later took him to hospital for treatment. He said that the second deceased was charged for that incident, that at a later date, he was the second deceased was charged with the traffic offenses after he, first accused and other officers found him riding a motorcycle with 3 pillion riders without a helmet, reflector jacket, among other offenses for which he was charged. Defense witness number 12 was Chief Inspector Robert Sugut, OCS Makindu Police Station. He was called by the first accused and he produced the OBs for Makindu Police Station and Kiboko Police Post, covering 23rd and 24th of June 2016, as well as the cell registers for Makindu Police Station and Kiboko Police Post. He stated that Kiboko was a police post under Makindu Police Station. The OB number 17 of 24th of June 2016 confirms that at 12:07 hours, One prisoner was collected by Senior Sergeant Frederick Leliman and Corporal Richard Nyakundi of Mlolongo Police Station. The second accused gave an unsworn statement. He was defense witness number 1. He accounted for his movements on the 23rd of June 2016. He said that he left the post for Ad River for personal work from 8 a.m., that he proceeded to meet with the third accused at City Cabanas from around 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., where they had gone to see whether the third accused could purchase a cooker, that after they returned to the post, he went to sleep as he was bereaved. He testified that he did not see or hear of anything unbecoming at the post. He did not call any witness. Now, the third accused gave us unsworn defense. She was defense witness number 2. She repeated the same evidence as the second accused about their visit to City Cabanas to check on the cooker. She stated that since she was alone on duty at the post, she left the station in the hands of PW18 between 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., that thereafter she remained at the post until 6 p.m., that she handed over the keys to the cells and the armory to PW21 and left the post just after 6:30 p.m. to her place of business. She said that she did not see anything unusual at the post, nor see anyone brought, held, or removed from the cells the whole day. She called 2 witnesses. Her witness, defense witness number 3, testified that on the 23rd of June 2016, he met Sylvia, that is the third accused, outside the post waiting for a motorcycle at about 6:40 p.m., that he was driving his motor vehicle KBJ 038C Mark II Toyota, in which he gave her a lift. He testified that he dropped that accused off at Mlolongo at 7:10 p.m. Defense witness number 4, Corporal Faith, was the second witness called by the third accused. She testified that the exit entry, she identified the exit entry she made in the OB number 4 of 23rd of June 2016 at 1700 hours after reporting off duty as day guard at Unitas Bank in Mlolongo. She testified that the officer on duty at the report office desk at the post that day was the third accused. She stated that when she went to the report office at around 5, she did not find Sylvia at the report desk where the OB was. She stated that the OB number 5 of 2013, 23rd of June 2016, has an entry by the third accused at 1800 hours, which was entered immediately after hers. She said that when she looked at the OB, she did not see any entry of persons having been taken to the post, nor was she informed of anyone who had been brought to that post. She testified that it was possible to see people in the cells from the report office where the OB was kept, but that on that evening, she did not see anyone in the cells. Defense witness number 5, Corporal Catherine Mutisia, was sent by the OCS Mlolongo Police Station, 1 Chief Inspector Joaquin Kangangi, to produce the occurrence book for the station that had been requested by Mr. Ombeta for the first and second accused. It covered the period including 24th of June 2016. The fourth accused gave a sworn defense and called 6 witnesses. He was defense witness number 6. His defense was that he got permission to leave the station for purpose of visiting his family from the evening of the 22nd of June 2016, and that he returned to his workstation at Mlolongo Police Station on the 27th of June 2016. He identified Police Exhibit 111 as the marching orders signed by the ward commander of the area, which included the post and Mlolongo Police Station, Inspector Cheboy, as proof he was given permission to be away. The fourth accused gave details of how he spent the day of the 23rd of June 2016 within Roiro and Thika. He said that that morning he was at Morera Farm, Roiro, where his house was. He said that after establishing that Inspector Getonga, defense witness number 8, was to take him to his house construction site, was on his way from Nairobi to meet him. He left his house at 1:03 p.m. They met, visited the site, then had lunch and parted at 3:30 p.m. He testified that he left for Thika town, where he met defense witness number 9, Julius Moiro, at 4:50 p.m. After parting with him at 6:10, he called the sister who was defense witness number 11 and met her in the same evening at Thika. Now, defense witness number 7 was the wife of the fourth accused. She informed the court that he went home on the evening of 22nd of June 2016 and remained there until 27th of June 2016. That she left him home every morning as she went to work, and every evening she met him at home after work. On the other hand, defense witness number 8 said that he was with the fourth accused at Ruiru on the 23rd of June 2016 from around 1 p.m. and that they parted at around 3 p.m. Defense witness number 9 and 11, the siblings, confirmed being with the fourth accused on 23rd of June 2016 at different times between 5 and 6 p.m. Now, defense witness number 10 was Commissioner of Police and was sub-county head of the Administration Police Formation within Athi River, which covered the post and Mlolongo Police Station. He confirmed that the fourth accused was from the Administration Police Formation attached to Mlolongo Police Station. This witness confirmed that the marching order, which was Prosecution Exhibit 111, was signed by Inspector Chaboy as the senior officer in charge of administration officers at the post and at Mlolongo Police Station, and was therefore a genuine document. He stated that prior to issuing the marching order, Inspector Chaboy had called him over the request by the fourth accused to be off work for 5 days from 22nd June 2016, and that he gave permission empowering Inspector Chaboy to issue and sign the marching order. The fifth accused gave a sworn defense. He was defense witness number 17. In his defense, the fifth accused stated that he was a police informer and also a businessman. He said that he knew PW26 PC Kamau because the OCS Lele gave Kamau his number. He said that Lele also gave him Kamau's phone number, and told him that if he ever needed the OCS but he was not available, he could call Kamau. This was happening on the second week of June 2016. He stated that on the 23rd of June, he proceeded to Mlolongo intending to sell jeans to Kamau. He reached there at 8:30 a.m. at the upper stage. That as he did not reach Kamau on phone, as his phone was off, he proceeded to the station where he found him with Waingo, also a police officer, and one Kamenju, a police officer. The fifth accused stated that Kamau gave him an assignment to track a Kamwizi, in quotes, a thief who was going to Mavoko Locals that morning. He was supposed to keep tracks of him and to keep reporting back to Kamau. The fifth accused stated that he kept track of the 3 deceased as required of him, and that at around 11 or 12 p.m., he saw the 3 deceased persons leaving the court hurriedly. He reported this to Kamau. He said that he was picked up by one Brown at Mavoko Court, that later that day, while in a vehicle NZD at Mlolongo, near the weighbridge, he saw the vehicle the deceased persons had driven off in from Mavoko Locals. He testified that he noted that the deceased were not in the vehicle, rather it was one Kamenjo in the vehicle. The accused stated that he was told to take that vehicle to Limuru, and that he was also given a radio phone, that he took the vehicle all the way to Limuru. He later received a call requesting him to go to Mlolongo to receive a reward for the work he had done. He told court that Kamau told him to proceed to Kwa Mude's bar, past Mule's supermarket. He proceeded there and found Kamau with Waingo, Kamenjo, and Brown. It was 6:30 p.m. or so. Kaki, and told him to get money in an envelope inside the vehicle. described to him, which he did. He got the money. That when he went back to Mudhes, he found Kamau and company had ordered some meat that in half an hour or 45 minutes, a policeman came panting that he told Kamau that those people he dropped there had called, in quotes, that upon getting the information from one Mwaneki, Kamau, Waingo, Mwaneki and Brown left quickly, that they did not get back, that past 9 p.m. he was directed to proceed to a certain area where he walked and found a vehicle with hazard lights on, as he had been informed. He found Kamau with Kamenjo, Brown, Waweru and Mwaneki. They were standing, but not together. He testified that Kamau asked him to sit inside the car, which he did, that he did not know where the thieves were, but that he was told they would go to Thika. That there were 2 vehicles, and all of them together were 7. He said he was told that he would be one of the drivers and that he would travel with Kamenjo and Brown because they were the cigarette smokers. The other car was carrying Kamau, Waweru, Waingo and Mwaneki. That before they left the bush area, Kamau's vehicle went ahead of theirs. The vehicle stopped near a tarmac road, and he also stopped behind it, and that it was where Senior, that is the first accused Leliman, brought the money to purchase fuel. That he gave Kamau the money because he was driving a station vehicle, that they proceeded to Thika, drove past the town to a place he had in a bush area, that they stopped by the bridge, opened the boots of the 2 vehicles, and he saw the others with him removing heavy gunny bags from the boot of the 2. The gunny bags were thrown into the river below over the bridge. He described the gunny bags as long and heavy luggage. He testified that he was told to turn the vehicle and that they returned to Morolongo the same way they had left, arriving there at 4 a.m. He said that they went to where he later learned was the first accused bar, where he bought them a lot of roast meat and alcohol. He said that he drank until he passed out and woke up many hours later at 10 a.m. In cross-examination by the state, the 5th accused told the court that on the morning of 23rd of June 2016, Kamau called him at 6 a.m., asked him to go to Mlolongo to meet him, that on arriving there, Kamau gave him his Airtel number, 0723033635, saying his Safaricom number was down and that he used his phone number, 0727433431, to communicate with Kamau. He was given an assignment by Kamau, and it involved tracking the 3 deceased at Mavoko locals, that he and Kamau left Mlolongo police station in the company of Kamenjo and Waingo, both police officers. He testified that Kamau was calling another person within the course, after which he would call him as they tracked the deceased within the court precincts. In cross-examination, the 5th accused admitted that as his phone data showed, he went to Mlolongo between 22nd and 30th of June 2016. Now, in cross-examination by the Council for the Law Society and victims, the 5th accused said that he was not denying that he was involved in the murders of the deceased, but that he was saying that he was being used and that by that time he did not know what was happening and that he deeply regretted what happened. He said that he was so relieved after releasing the information to court, as it has been such a heavy burden in his heart. In cross-examination by the counsel for the 1st and 2nd accused, the 5th accused testified that he and police came up with a story, which is what was reduced to the confession. He said that he was promised by PW 44 and 45 to be made a state witness and a salary of 30,000 per month, house rent, and 200,000 to move his wife's business. The 5th accused testified that on the 8th of November 2021, He came to court for assertion that the first accused gave him 15,000 shillings as an inducement that he does not mention the name of the first accused in connection with the murders. The fifth accused said that he ate lunch with 1,000 and surrendered 14,000 shillings on return to prison. The fifth accused called a witness who was defense witness number 19, superintendent of prisons, in documentation section, Naivasha maximum, who receives and keeps cash from prisoners. Witness number 19 testified that the entry of the 8th of November 2021 was a cash on admission, shows that 14,000 shillings was received from the fifth accused on readmission to prison from court that day. Now, Mr. Ombeta recalled the first accused, who gave evidence denying giving any such money to the fifth accused. I have considered the entire evidence that was adduced in this case, both by the prosecution and the defense, together with the submissions of counsel for the state, the defense, and counsel for victims, the digest of cases cited, and the list and bundle of authorities. Unfortunately, due to bereavement, Dr. Fred Ojambo, senior counsel, who was the counsel for the victims, was unable to file any submissions in the case. So the accused persons are charged with 3 counts of murder, contrary to section 203 of the Penal Code. There are 5. The offense of murder constitutes 4 ingredients. That is, the deceased died, that their death was unlawful, that at the time the accused committed the act or made the omission which caused the death of the deceased, the accused had formed the necessary intention to cause the death or grievous harm of the deceased. 4, that the evidence on record establishes a nexus between the death of the deceased person and the unlawful act or omission of the accused that caused the death. Now, there are 5 accused charged in this, with this offense. The prosecution has the burden to establish that the accused persons acted in one common intention or joint concert as principal offenders to commit the offense. Now, malice aforethought is an integral part of the offense of murder. It is a technical term associated with the state of mind of the accused charged with the offense of murder, as at the time the act or omission which caused death was executed. The prosecution must prove that the act or acts or omissions of the accused persons that caused death were actuated by malice. The circumstances which constitute malice are defined under Section 206 of the Penal Code. As for the burden of proof, it is a principle of law entrenched in the Constitution under Article 52A that an accused person is presumed to be innocent until the contrary is proved. That burden of proof lies with the prosecution, while the standard of proof required is one beyond any reasonable doubt. Under the Evidence Act, under Section 107(1), provides that whoever desires any court to give judgment as to any right or liability dependent on the existence of facts which he asserts must prove those facts exist. As to what constitutes proof beyond any reasonable doubt, I've put a case on that. Now, the issues for determination. The onus and the evidential burden lies with the prosecution to prove their case against the accused persons beyond any reasonable doubt. Upon considering the evidence adduced by both parties in this case and their submissions by counsel, I found that the issues which are for determination are whether this court was coram non judice, or put simply, whether this court lacks jurisdiction to conclude the trial on account of appointment to a higher bench before the trial was finalized. 2, whether the DNA analysis report by the government chemist should be rejected for non-compliance with Section 122A of the Penal Code. 3, whether the retracted confession of the fifth accused has any probative value, and if so, to what extent. Whether the prosecution has proved motive, whether the prosecution has established that the accused persons had formed the necessary malice aforethought to commit murder, whether the prosecution has established that the accused persons acted with one common intention or are principal offenders to commit the offense, whether the circumstantial evidence adduced was sufficient to lead to a conclusion that the accused persons murdered the deceased persons, and whether the alibi defense put forward by the accused persons holds. Now, on coram non judice, as to whether this court lacked jurisdiction to conclude the trial because of appointment to a higher bench, counsel for the fifth accused, Mr. Michoki, raised this issue after the close of the entire case as part of his final submissions. He submitted that this court lacked jurisdiction over the subject matter based on the presiding judge's appointment as a judge of the Court of Appeal, pursuant to Gazette note which he read for us. He questioned whether I could concurrently exercise the powers of both offices and urged that it appeared readily apparent that appointment to the office of the judge of the Court of Appeal automatically repealed the previous appointment as a judge of the High Court by necessary implication. Counsel also relied on a case, Nyambuto, Umwenga, and two others, for the proposition that courts are and can exercise only such powers as are vested on them by the Constitution and the statutes, and no other. Counsel also took a swipe at the actions of the Chief Justice to confer jurisdiction administratively, which counsel urged was and still is ultra vires the powers of the office. For that proposition, he cited a Supreme Court case, that is Republic versus Karisa Chengo. The appropriate time to raise the issue of jurisdiction, Mr. Michoki urged that it was a fundamental issue in the proceedings and could be raised at any point in the proceedings. On the issue of jurisdiction raised by Mr. Michoki for the fifth accused, it was the submissions of Mr. Mutuko, learned counsel for the state, that raising the issue in the final submissions was in bad faith and an attempt to delay further the conclusion of this matter and avoid culpability. Counsel urged that when the court mentioned the case on 1st of July 2021, almost a month after taking the oath of office to the Court of Appeal, the party those judges who had gone to the Court of Appeal, who had partly had matters advanced in nature pending before them to finalize them. Counsel urged that it is at that point or that time that the issues of jurisdiction ought to have been raised. Mr. Mutuko urged that by not raising coram non judice at that juncture, it is acquires his right to raise that issue. Now, regarding the case, Mr. Mutuko urged that at the time of the had 42 prosecution witnesses, with 2 prosecution witnesses remaining to close of the case. It was his submission that this court's ascension to the Court of Appeal did not rob the court of the unlimited original jurisdiction to conclude the matter. It's not a new occurrence in Kenya's history in the administration of criminal justice. He due course attention to the 6th announcement of the Judges and Magistrates Vetting Board, dated 15th of January 2013, by Sharad Rao, who was chairman. High Court in 2011 and 2012, who sought for and obtained leave from the Chief Justice to be offered higher courts in order to finalize their pending matters in the High Court. I have considered the submissions of learned counsel Mr. Michuki and also Mr. Motuko on the issue of coram non judice. The arguments of Mr. Michoke are that after this court heard the entire case, it ceased to have jurisdiction to write judgment on grounds it has since taken oath to serve in a higher bench. He quoted no legal provision to support that position. At the same time, he acknowledged that there was no law that spelled out which court had jurisdiction to hear murder cases was out of practice and custom in exercise of its original jurisdiction. If I heard Mr. Michoki well, he was at a loss whether the law supports the trial of murder cases by that have jurisdiction to hear the case in the first place. He is not alone in that dilemma. The issue of the jurisdiction of the High Court to hold murder trials was the subject of a case, that is Charles Henry Nyaoke versus Cabinet Secretary for Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government and 4 others. It was a High Court petition, Kisumu, in which I was the presiding judge. Now, in that case, the court observed, and I quote, as regards criminal cases, the Criminal Procedure Court, in the exercise of its original jurisdiction in criminal cases under Part 2, titled Powers of Courts, it provides, subject to this court, an offense under the Penal Code may be tried by the High Court or a Sabonde Court, by which offense is shown in the 5th column of the first schedule to this court to be triable. An offense under any law other than the Penal Code shall, where the court is not mentioned in that behalf. Now, where no court is mentioned, it may, subject to this court, be tried by the High Court or by a offense is shown in the 5th column of the first schedule to this court to be triable. The 5th column, the first schedule of the Criminal Procedure Code, the court which may try a person charged with murder under Section 203 of the Penal Code is not indicated. We have carefully evaluated the rival submissions made by the parties. That the parties herein are asking the court to interpret Article 165(3)(c) of the Constitution to determine the delineation of the jurisdiction of the High Court in hearing and determining criminal matters in exercise of its original jurisdiction. In the petition, it is apparent to this court hear murder and treason charges under the Penal Code under Section 4 and 5(2) of the Criminal Procedure Code may appear to be arbitral if the history and the context is not taken into consideration. For the proper understanding why murder and treason are currently the only charges that are tried by the High Court in exercise of its original jurisdiction, it is important to set out. Now, other than the statutory requirements and the criminal repealed, it is apparent that the trial of murder charges before the High Court, close quote. Now, the issue whether this write a judgment calls for a holistic consideration of the values and principles of the Constitution, as well as the circumstances of the case and the parties and the public interest, if any. I do not ascribe to Mr. Michoke's submission that it appeared readily apparent that appointment to the office of the Judge of the Court of Appeal automatically repealed the previous appointment as a judge of the High Court. To repeal means to revoke or to rescind. The definition of a repeal is the act of taking something back, to reverse, approbate, annul, invalidate, nullify, void, recant, retract, and all those. In order to repeal an appointment that had been gazetted, the same process would have had to be undertaken. It would have to be gazetted. It cannot stand revoked by necessary implication, as counsel has suggested or urged. The Constitution did not provide transitional provisions dictating or providing for what should happen to partly heard matters. The judge is elevated to a higher bench. It did not prescribe either whether a judge elevated to a higher bench could finalize pending matters. The Constitution is dead silent on this issue. Does silence mean that the Constitution has ousted the jurisdiction of a judge elevated to higher bench to conclude its cases upon elevation? So the principle applicable in interpretation of articles of Constitution set out, I've quoted a case by Judge Mwita. I agree with Mr. Mutuku that directions given by the Honorable the Chief Justice to the judges appointed from the High Court to the Court of Appeal to complete their respective advanced partly hard matters was an administrative action that was authored or anchored in the law, Section 16A, C, and E of the High Court Organization and Administration Act number 27 of 2015, and likewise Section 5 of the Judicial Service Act, which is also in tandem with the High Court Organization and Administration Act, High Court Organization and Administration Act. I do not want to appear to read the Honorable Chief Justice's mind when she gave the directions in issue. However, the lack of any express guiding provision in the Constitution on the issue must have been an integral reason for the action and direction given by Her Ladyship, the Honorable the Chief Justice, that the Constitution was silent. Thus, the head of the judiciary exercised statutory powers in the two statutes quoted above to guide that process. There can be no vacuum. There can be no occasion for a vacuum that courts of law will fold their hands and say there is nothing they can do because the law is silent. This is why courts intervene. The doctrine of ex debito justitiae has the force of law. I believe that the issue of hearing and disposal of cases, which is the core function of courts in this country, is a matter affecting the dignity, the accessibility, great bearing on the application by courts of constitutional values and principles. Every successive Chief Justice, especially since the promulgation of the Constitution 2010, has enhanced the operationalization of the values and principles of the Constitution, good governance, and the rule of law by framing visions. These visions, shared by way of transformation framework, guided the core function actors and all support system actors in the judiciary on the best practices that guarantee optimal, effectual, expeditious, and responsive functioning of the judiciary and that protect and guarantee access to justice to all. Even before the promulgation of the current Constitution, every Chief Justice, through practice, directions, rules, and policies, guided the processes of the judiciary in order to be effective and intentional in giving responsive and seamless services to all her clients and enhance administration of law. To that extent, and in that regard, the impugned direction of the Honorable the Chief Justice Martha Koome were not unique, unusual, or novel. Now, I am for the promotion and preservation of equality and equity to all, the accused persons first and foremost, and the victims, the public interest and dignity of the entire trial process. It is important that courts stir public confidence in bearing and determining cases across the board that cannot be effected if courts can commence cases and then abandon them at will on grounds of technicalities or excuses on grounds of quorum non judice. In order to have a holistic perspective of the issue at hand, it is important to take into account several facts about this case. First, the accused persons were arraigned in court with these charges in 2016, July. Secondly, the matter began before another judge who had two witnesses before recusing herself. due to the perceived length of the case that made it difficult to abandon her single judge session to attend to this matter. Thirdly, the court has taken 5 years to hear the case, hampered by many factors, and the most challenging being the COVID-19 pandemic that shut down courts for a considerable period. And fourthly, the prosecution, 7 witnesses in the trial within trial, and 19 defense witnesses. That makes a total of 72 witnesses. Fifthly, there were 11 lawyers in this case for the state, the defense, and the victims. Including documentary exhibits and submissions of counsel. Seventhly, this case had 3 witnesses under witness protection. Eighthly, the case involved a public interest issue of grave importance. Ninthly, one of the accused persons, that is the 5th accused, in this case is also under protection and was kept at Naivasha Maximum Prison when his co-accused exhibits for the prosecution and 34 exhibits for the defense. Not to mention that if there is an interruption in the conclusion of the matter and the case is given to another judge to handle, there are several implications. First of all, the cost factor to the public offers will be enormous, considering but not limited to state officers who will be engaged in handling the matter. Second, the other important question to consider is what will be the effect or impact of handing over this file to another judge in the criminal division. If they will have to proceed to write judgment, how long will it take the judge to understand the numerous volumes of proceedings before penning down a judgment? And third, what guarantee will there be that witnesses will be found, supposing the matter were to be ordered to be tried afresh 7 years down the line? And fourth, what trauma will the families and colleagues of the deceased continue to suffer due to the prolonged waiting for the final determination of the case? And fifth, what of the accused persons having to have the case start all over again? Even the most strong and patient of them all will have trauma by such a move. I believe that it will be against public interest and public policy, and it will not serve efficacious disposal of this case to adjourn it and hand it over for continuation by another judge. Such an action does not settle well with the need to uphold the purpose, value, and principles of the Constitution, especially those touching on expeditious delivery of justice without unreasonable delay, including advancing the rule of law, human rights, and good governance in exercise of its judicial authority as obligated under Article 259(2)(e) of the Constitution. Constitutional values, principles, and the rule of law and public interest will be best served by declining the invitation by counsel for the 5th accused to declare this court quorum non judice. Now, the other issue was the identification of the bodies of the deceased persons and the post-mortem examination. The bodies of the deceased persons were identified to the pathologist, who was Dr. Odor Johansen, PW19. Now, PW19, the head of forensic medicine and chief government pathologist in the country, stated that on the 1st of July 2016, late in the afternoon, he was informed that there were bodies at City Mortuary that required post-mortem examination. He decided that there was need for X-ray and CT scans to be conducted on the bodies, since there was need to establish whether there were any fractures in the bodies which might be missed out during post-mortem. He asked for the bodies to undergo CT scans at Kenyatta National Hospital, and the same was conducted by Dr. P. Otieno, and the scans the report was part of what was exhibited. Now, PW19 stated that he conducted the post-mortem on the body of Willie Kimani on 4th of July 2016. He stated that he received the CT scan of the subject. The scan indicated that the subject had a fracture on the skull on the left side extending to the front side of the skull into the left bone. He also had multiple skull and facial bone fractures. On post-mortem, PW19 stated that externally, the subject body had features of decomposition, including skin slipping. He stated that the body was distorted, swollen, and was darkening on the lower limbs. Blood was oozing from the mouth and the nose. He further stated that it had a laceration on the right side of the head, which was 2 centimeters long, and abrasions on the forehead. The left side of the head was deformed, and there was a contusion bruise on the back of the left head. He noted a deformation on the right side frontal inside the head, indicative of a fracture underlying it. He indicated that there was a contusion on the back of the head, which was about 120 centimeters from the middle of the head, an abrasion of the right side of the head, an abrasion above the left eye, and an abrasion near the ear. He finally stated that there was an extensive bruise on the anterior wall. PW19 stated that internally the body of the deceased had signs of bleeding on the muscles of the chest, which were more on the right side. He stated that the lungs, the heart, the pancreas, the liver and intestines, and the spleen were decomposing. The abdomen had bruises on the internal right side. The stomach was empty, and the bruises were noted on the testicles. Now, he further stated that the head had hematoma of the skull, fractures of the left head, of the left skull extending to the front, on the left eyeball and bone surrounding it, that on the right maxilla, upper jaw, and on the cheekbone, there was a fracture. He stated that the subject's brain had liquefied because of decomposition and mixing with the blood. He concluded that the cause of death of the first deceased was due to head injury due to blunt force. The bruising on the left forearm and the left elbow. They can see. Is that the reason of the sound? Okay, he described the bruising on the left forearm and left elbow as defensive injuries and produced the CT scan in respect of the first disease as Exhibit 29, his post-mortem form as Exhibit 29. The CT scan was Exhibit 29A, and a post-mortem addendum as Exhibit 29B. PW19 explained that abrasions and scars could have been caused by a blunt object, while the contusions on the right temporal and cervicular region were caused by a blunt force trauma which caused bleeding under the skin. He stated that the defensive injuries were the ones he saw on the left forearm, and further explained that the injury to the head was very severe because of the extent of the fracture. He stated that it could have been caused by a drop of a stone or object on the head, or a drop from a height. He stated that in his opinion, the immediate cause of death was the head injury due to its severity. PW19 stated that he conducted post-mortem of the third deceased on the 4th of July 2016, and that his CT scan revealed no fractures, no bullet holes, and no cartridges, and his cartridges were normal. He stated that externally, the third disease body revealed features of decomposition, including skin spillage, swelling and darkening of the skin. He stated that there was blood oozing from his nose and mouth. He further noted a bruise on the left cheek below the ear and a complete ligature mark and bruise around the neck. He stated that internally the third deceased body had a bruising on the surface of the thyroid bone cartilage. The hyoid bone was loose but not fractured, and there was bleeding on the chest. He stated that the lungs, the heart, the intestines, the liver, the kidneys, and the spleen were all decomposing. He further stated that there was a bruising on the scalp on the left and the back side. He stated that the brain was deluquified owing to its decomposition and mixing with blood. He further noted a bruise on the spine at the neck region area, hematoma, bruising of the left forearm from the wrist and on the left leg above the ankle and above the left knee. PW19 indicated that his conclusion was that the cause of death of the third deceased was ligature strangulation. He explained that the head injury was inflicted before the rope was tied to the neck. Therefore, the immediate cause of death was the ligature strangulation. He produced the postmortem report, the CT scan, and the postmortem addendum, Exhibit 30, 30A, and 30B. Now, PW19 said that he conducted the postmortem on the second deceased, on the body of the second deceased on the same day as the other two. He stated that the CT scan in respect of the second deceased revealed no fractures on the skeleton and no evidence of bullet entry was seen. PW19 stated that externally the body was decomposing and it had a bruise on the left eye, swelling above the left ear. He also noted an old scar on the inner aspect of the forearm and wrinkling of the foot, which he explained as being a sign of someone being removed from water. PW19 stated that internally the second disease had hematoma on the thyroid cartilage, bruises on the left chest muscles with internal bleeding. He stated that the lungs, heart, pancreas, liver, kidneys, and the spleen were all decomposing. He noted the bruises on the neck, the left ankle, and left leg below the knee. He made the conclusion that the cause of death of the second disease was injuries to the head, the neck, and the chest. He explained that the hematoma on the thyroid cartilage was indicative of pressure applied to the neck. He further stated that the injury on the forearm was a healing scar. He produced a post-mortem in respect of the second disease as Exhibit 31, CT scan 31A, and the addendum to the post-mortem 31B. PW19 stated that he visited the scene where it was alleged the trio were murdered with an aim of looking for any biological exhibits, but he did not collect anything. He stated that all the injuries on the deceased person's bodies were inflicted when they were alive because one only bleeds when they are alive. In answer to a question put to him, PW19 testified that with the level of decomposition, it was difficult to see the ligature marks on the bodies. The issue of the cause of death or causation of death raised by Mr. Michoke is a challenge entirely as to whether the fifth accused really knew how the deceased persons were murdered, as it is clear he did not himself either stand by to watch the deceased being murdered or participate in terms of strangling, hitings, assault, or in any such cause, or in any such way cause injury to them. The fact is, by the time they ferried the deceased to River Athi, they were dead as a result of assault executed against them that night. In any event, in addition, the evidence of Dr. Johnson that due to composition, injuries may not have been easy to note. It is clear the deceased were battered by their tormentors. The level of the injuries is evidence of that. The first deceased, I've already said the injuries which they had. So I said that I find no material variation between the confession by the fifth accused and the findings of the pathologist. Now, I must mention that the way to challenge the evidence of an expert, which includes a pathologist, is settled in law. Now, in cases including those that were cited by counsel, There's a Republic versus Landfair, a 1968 one All England report, which says that our view is that the evidence of a doctor, whether it be a police surgeon or anyone else, should be accepted unless the doctor himself shows that it ought not to be, as the evidence of a professional man giving independent expert evidence with the sole desire of assisting the court, and the famous one of Dali versus Republic, that it is now tried law that while the courts must give proper respect to the opinion of experts, such an experts are not, as it were, binding on the courts, and the courts must accept them. Such evidence must be considered along with other evidence available, and if there is a proper cogent basis for rejecting the expert opinion, a court would be perfectly entitled to do so. There was no challenge to the findings of the pathologists on the postmortem examination of the deceased bodies. No question was put to Dr. Odor to explain his findings or expound on the basis of his findings. I appreciate that Mr. Michoki was not present when the pathologist testified. However, he had the right to recall him for further cross-examination when he came into the case, as he exercised in respect of the government chemist, Dr. Kimani. Now, having taken into consideration the findings by the pathologist and the circumstances under which the bodies were found, which I don't want to repeat, I find that the expert opinion of the pathologist was proper and cogent, and that there is no grounds not to accept his evidence. I'm satisfied that the prosecution case as to the cause of death was clear and confirms that the deceased persons were murdered. Now, whether the DNA analysis report by the government chemist should be rejected for non-compliance with sections 122A, B, C, and D of the Penal Code. Now, Dr. Kimani was PW 32, the government analyst. He told the court that on the 30th, they received exhibits and swaps. That is on 3 occasions, 13th of July, 15th of July of 2016, and 29th of August 2016. Now, Mr. Mishoke submitted that the right of the accused person was violated because the samples taken from him were illegally acquired evidence contrary to Article 50, Sub-Article 4 of the Constitution. He challenged the admission of Exhibit 72, the government chemist report, which included the results of the analysis of samples illegally taken from the fifth accused. Counsel relied on the provisions of sections 122A, B, C, D, and urged that PW 44 and 45, both officers below the rank of the inspectors, took the fifth accused for DNA sampling without an order of an inspector or above, and without the consent of the fifth accused, and also without a court order. Now, from the foregoing, I've quoted section 122A, A and C. So I say that from the foregoing provisions, a DNA sample can only be procured if a police officer from the rank of an inspector orders for it, or a court gives an order that the sample be procured from a suspect, or the subject himself consents used in writing, authorizing the extraction of the samples as required by law. That said, I find the objection raised by the fifth accused in this regard an academic exercise. This is because in his own defense, the fifth accused person placed himself at the scene of the lockers in Quo, where the exhibits for which DNA samples was required were recovered. The fifth accused admitted that he was at Soweto open fields at the time the deceased were murdered. He gave graphic detail of how he sat in the car, smoking, and how he threw the cigarette butts to the ground outside the car by opening the window slightly in order to do so. So having admitted that he was at the scene on the material time, that he discarded several cigarette butts there from where the police recovered them, that alone is an admission, and considering it against other evidence establishes without a doubt that he was at the scene of murder at the material time. Even without the samples taken from him, I found that there was sufficient evidence with which to find that the fifth accused was at the locus in quo in Soweto open field at the time the deceased were murdered. Now there is a historical background. So in this background, I'll discuss how it all began. So the issue that degenerated into become this case began with an encounter between the second deceased and the first accused. And regarding that, Mr. Ombeta, for the first and second accused person, urged that the evidence regarding the second arrest of the second deceased was contradictory. He took issue with the alleged arrest, urging it was not clear whether he was arrested near Muli's supermarket or outside his house. And secondly, Learned Counsel Mr. Ombeta urged that PW44, one of the key investigators of this case, agreed in his evidence that a police officer could arrest a person as many times as he is suspected to have committed an offense. I will consider the evidence adduced by the witnesses to determine these issues. So the very first encounter between the first accused and the second deceased was on the 10th of April 2015. The first accused and other officers were on duty near Mule's supermarket within Lolongo police station area, while the second deceased was engaged in his employment as a boda rider. It was during the evening hours. PW4, the wife of the second deceased, provided the information concerning this encounter as she was informed by her husband. Now PW35, the IPOA investigator, recorded a statement from the second deceased on the 27th of July 2015, outlining his complaint against the first accused on the basis of this first encounter, which is also consistent. Now PW5 and PW1 also received the information concerning this encounter from the second accused as well. So PW5 received it during an interview held between the 1st and the 6th of January 2016. PW1 handled the defense of the second accused, a second deceased, in court for the two cases against him, and got first-hand information. Now, before delving into the relationship between the first accused and the second deceased, let me mention that the first accused admitted that he shot the second deceased, but maintained that it was in defense of his colleague, a policewoman, and explained that the bullet hit the second deceased on the right wrist. I will come back to this later when considering the doctor's findings as per PWP3 form, which was Exhibit 76, to confirm the actual position. The first accused contended that the second deceased was about to attack his colleague, Corporal Jane Ngige, with a knife, and after warning him 3 times to put the knife down, he shot him. Now, PW35 was an investigator with IPOA. He testified that the second deceased made a complaint with IPOA on the 25th of July 2015 through an official IPOA complaint form, which was Exhibit 74. The complaint was handed over to him to deal, and he opened a complaint file. He testified that on 27th of July 2015, he invited the second deceased to his office, where he made a statement which PW35 reduced in writing, signed on every page by the second deceased. In brief, the statement was to the effect that the second deceased was shot by a policeman who was in company of a policewoman, that the policeman told the policewoman that he had shot the second deceased by mistake, that the policewoman told him to trump up charges against the second deceased to justify the shooting, that the policewoman gave him first aid, and after which he was taken with the vehicle registration number KBX 429G to Shalom Hospital, that after he was x-rayed at the hospital, he was locked up in the cells at Mlolongo police station from Friday to Monday with charges of being in possession of bangi and gambling in public. PW35 testified that he saw an injury on the right upper arm of the second deceased, but that he did not have a P3 form at the time, and he wrote in his statement that officers from Mlolongo refused to issue him with the form. PW35 testified that he personally went to see the OCS, Mlolongo Police Station, and told him that a P3 form should be issued to the second deceased, that it was issued on the 10th of September 2015 and completed by one Maureen Mudeo, a medical officer, on the 14th of September 2015. The P3 form was P Exhibit 76. It indicates that the second deceased had 4 scars of bullet injuries, an entry and exit bullet on the right upper arm, and 2 bullet wound scars, an entry wound on the lateral chest below the armpit, and an exit bullet wound on the posterior on the posterior chest. So the P3 form shows that the second deceased was shot on the right upper arm and the upper chest. The first accused evidence that he hit him on the right wrist is not supported by the doctor's findings. PW4 also made a mistake when she said that her husband, that is the second deceased, had injuries on the left lower hand. Now PW35 testified that on the 14th of March 2016, the second deceased went to see him accompanied by the first deceased, who left them alone. He said that the second deceased appeared to be in fear and told him that he had more information concerning further encounters with the police. Briefly, the second deceased lamented about an incident that had taken place on the 13th of December 2015, in which the first accused the OCS Mlolongo's Chief Inspector Wambugu and a policewoman, one Emily, took him from his home, blindfolded him, and threatened to kill him if he cooperated with the IPOA. That the same police officers were the ones present during the shooting incident. PW35 said that he recorded the statement of the second deceased as part of his investigations, and it was Exhibit 77. He testified that after receiving that report, he summoned and recorded statements from the first accused, one Corporal Jane Gige, one PC Philip Otuoma, and one PC Mwaneki on the 16th of March 2016. He stated that he informed the three that he was investigating an offense of assault, illegal wounding, misuse of firearm, and threat to kill. PW35 confirmed that he received on the 7th of April 2016 a letter, Exhibit 6, from the Witness Protection Agency. It was dated 1st of April 2016, and it was seeking to know whether the second deceased was their witness. He said that he learned from IJM that they had approached Witness Protection Agency to assist the second deceased case. To assist with the second deceased case, he said that he wrote back to them a letter which was dated 11th of May 2016, signed by the CEO, Elema Halake, which was Exhibit 78. In the letter, he confirmed that the second deceased was a witness of serious assault, annexing the statements of the deceased to the said letters. He said that he learned later that the second deceased died the same year. Now, PW1 stated that Mr. Willie Kemani, the first deceased, brought the case of Josephat Mwenda, the second deceased, to the organization's attention. He stated that that was in April 2015 and that it was in connection with the criminal case number 226 of 2015, that is Exhibit 1A and B, before the Principal Magistrate's Court in Mavoko. The case referred to involved the second deceased, who had been shot accidentally by the first accused person using his private firearm in the process of being arrested and later charged with being in possession of narcotics. PW1, as the lead advocate, assessed the case and gave recommendations that it could succeed, and that it had also met the organization's ideals of defending victims of injustice. He stated that he took over the case as the head advocate, and he applied for the type proceedings of the criminal case on the 29th of June 2015, and was issued with the same, where he found that the second deceased had been charged with gambling in a field and being in possession of cannabis sativa. PW1 stated that on the 27th of December 2015, the second deceased gave a statement with the IJM recorded by the first deceased, in which he claimed that the now deceased OCS of Mlolongo had threatened him and warned him to withdraw the shooting complaint against the first accused, with a failure to which the first accused would kill him. That the very next day, he, that is the second deceased, was charged with the traffic offenses. In traffic case number 1650 of 2015, he said that he looked at the merits of the case and recommended that the evidence seemed fabricated against the second deceased and that IJM should represent him. He said that the case was allocated to him to defend, and that he made an oral application seeking to be supplied with the type proceedings of the traffic case, which were provided. He stated that the criminal case number 226 of 2015 proceeded on the 16th of February 2016, which was the first date given for the hearing of the criminal case. It proceeded before Honorable Mumasaba in chambers. PW1 stated that the first accused hearing testified in cross-examination, which PW1 personally conducted, the first accused admitted shooting the second deceased using his private firearm while on police operation, that he confirmed taking the second deceased to a private hospital with his private vehicle, and that PW1 stated that the admissions are at page 14 of the proceedings of that day. He testified that the case was adjourned to 24th of April 2016, and that as they left court on the first floor after the matter was adjourned, himself and the three accused persons in the case, including the second deceased, were accosted by police officers who shoved them down the stairs. He said that the police officers informed him that they wanted to take the three accused persons so that they could help them in investigations of a crime that had been committed in Meru. PW1 stated that he insisted that any questions to his clients should be put to them in his presence, that as the officers escorted them to their vehicle outside Mavoko Court, they met with the first accused at the entrance of the court building, and that the first accused nodded at the police officers that had arrested them, who nodded back. PW1 stated that they were taken to Ad River CID offices, where they were kept waiting for about 45 minutes, after which Mr. Mudhe, one of the police officers, returned the identification cards of all the accused persons and let them go. PW1 stated that on the 29th of February 2016, they went back to the court in connection with the traffic case, and that he informed the court of the happenings of the 16th of February 2016, and he further stated that he had also written a letter to Inspector General of Police concerning the intimidation they had received on the said date. The letter was dated 24th of February 2016. Now, PW13 stated that PW13 was the director of casework at IJM, where he oversaw the day-to-day operations of the casework department, including the legal department, investigation, and aftercare departments. PW13 narrated the historical aspect of the second disease complaint and the steps IJM had taken to help him. Now, he stated that in the course of the hearings of the two cases against the second disease, he drafted letters to the Inspector General of Police and IPOA after PW1 and the second disease were arrested after a court session on the 16th of December 2016, 16th of February 2016. He produced the letter dated 24th of February 2016 addressed to the IG as exhibit number 3, in which he was asking for the suspension of the first accused In order to pave way for independent investigations into the allegations the second deceased herein had made against him, he also produced a letter dated 24th of February 2016 addressed to Witness Protection Agency as Exhibit 4, whereby he was requesting the agency to admit the second deceased into their program. PW13 stated that he received a letter from Witness Protection dated 1st of March 2016, which was Exhibit 5, which made reference to his letter of 24th of February. He further stated that he received a letter, Exhibit 6, dated 1st of April 2016, in which he was copied, and the main addressee was the CEO IPOA from Witness Protection, asking IPOA to confirm whether the second deceased was fit for witness protection. Now, I conclude that bit by saying that I find no contradiction in the accounts of the statement by the second deceased as narrated by the various witnesses. I find that the prosecution has established beyond any doubt that the second deceased was harassed by the first accused and his boss, the then OCS Mlolongo, Chief Inspector Wambogo, and other police officers, arresting him just outside his house in the second instant and charging him for offenses which he could not have committed, as all the witnesses, that is PW1, 4, and 5, among others, are all in agreement that he could no longer ride any motorcycle or do any work at the time. So I must end by saying that the second disease deserved action from IPOA and protection from Witness Protection, whose vehicles painfully ground too slowly, which proved fatal to the deceased. Now, the other issue is whether the prosecution has proved motive, and it is appropriate at this juncture to consider whether the prosecution proved motive, and the prosecution has set out facts to answer the issue whether there was any motive for the murder of the deceased persons in this case. The accused persons denied any involvement with the murder of the deceased persons. Mr. Umbeta, for the first and second accused, urged that the second accused did not know any of the deceased persons, never met them, and could not have had any ill motive for any of them. As for the first accused, the learned counsel urged that there was no evidence, direct or otherwise, to prove that the first accused had a motive to commit the murders. Mr. Umbeta urged that Exhibit 24, the investigation diary of the 27th of June 2016, shows that the first accused was stated to be a suspect, yet at the time no statement, no confession, and no data had been obtained. Learned counsel urged that the IJM and investigation team operated on suspicion without any evidence. Now, I have quoted Choge versus Republic on the issue of motive. The prosecution has adduced evidence to show the second deceased made complaints against the first deceased. The second deceased made complaints against the first accused of a shooting incident on the 10th of April 2015 in which he shot the second deceased. The second deceased made to kill made against the second deceased on the 13th of December 2015, at the same time when additional charges were preferred against him. Although he denies threat to kill the second deceased, the first accused does not deny the two incidents took place and that they culminated with the two cases filed against the second deceased person at Mavoko locals. Indeed, in the criminal case, whose proceedings were Exhibit 1B, the first accused, in cross-examination by PW1, admitted shooting the second deceased using his private firearm while on official duty. He also admitted driving the second deceased to a private hospital using his private vehicle, and admitted that he locked him up in police cells a whole weekend, even though he was suffering severe bullet injuries inflicted by him. In addition, no police action was taken regarding the shooting incident. no spent cartridges collected as exhibits from the lockers in court, no P3 form issued to the victim, and no police file opened for the investigations. Not to mention the other ills of taking the victim to a private facility instead of a main hospital for specialized treatment, despite recommendation by the private doctors who saw the second deceased at the river, considering the seriousness of the injury where a bullet hit the victim, piercing through the upper arm, and secondly, and significantly, piercing through the chest from the lateral to the posterior region. These were serious injuries. Indeed, the evidence of PW1, 4, and 5 were clear that the second deceased had not recovered from these injuries and could no longer perform any work 1 year after the shooting. Now, bearing these facts in mind, bearing in mind also that IJM had taken over the cases against the second deceased and were defending him in court, when the first accused and his colleagues were summoned by IPOA to give statements on the 16th of March 2016, it must have dawned on the first accused how serious the matter had become. I find that these facts cogently and firmly establish that the first accused had developed a personal vendetta against the second deceased. I find that these facts establish that the first accused had a reason to silence the second deceased. His job was on the line, and actions towards realization of that fact were underway through IPOA. In regard to Mr. Mbeta's suspicion that there was, submissions that there was suspicion against his client even before any investigations had been carried out and before the bodies of the deceased had been found, he urged that the investigations were carried out to justify the arrest of the first accused. Counsel pointed fingers against PW5 of IJM as one who instigated that suspicion. That is not an accurate diagnosis. The evidence before the court shows clearly that the second deceased had filed a complaint against the first accused with IPOA, and that this agency did not take up the investigations immediately. When nothing seemed to happen is when the second deceased approached IJM for help, and this agency, that is IJM, acted more swiftly, even taking the second deceased out of his environment and offered him protection and legal and psychosocial support for 6 months before he was murdered. IJM had a clearer picture of the second deceased dilemma and had a lot of first-hand information regarding the experiences of the second deceased at the hands of the police. And from that standpoint, whatever PW5 said about the case was reasonable. In regard to motive, I find that the threat to loss of his employment was serious enough to have caused the first accused person anxiety and must have driven him to plan the attack on the second deceased. Of all the accused persons in this case, the first accused is the only person charged in this case who had a motive to harm the second deceased. The harm to the first and the third deceased was collateral damage just because they happened to have been there when the second deceased was kidnapped. I find that even though it is not a requirement for it to be proved, the prosecution proved motive as against the first accused. Now, whether the retracted confession of the fifth accused has any probative value, so before I consider this issue of the probative value of the statement and the inquiry taken from the fifth accused, it is expedient to give a summary of the statement. Now, in his confession, the fifth accused gave his phone number, contacts, that is 0727-433-431 and 0795845584. He stated that he resided within Waithaka and that he was a police informer and that he was recruited by the OCS Lele, who was PW20 in the case, in April 2011, who was at the time based in Kabete. The fifth accused stated that sometimes in April 2016, he went to Mlolongo police station to meet PW20 after he learned that he had been transferred to Mlolongo. He said that PW20 introduced him to 3 police officers in the SPIM fifth team, he stated that he visited Mlolongo police station on several occasions after that and became acquainted with the first accused. That sometimes in early May 2016, the first accused approached him and informed him that a thug that he had shot and injured wanted him to lose his job. That in the last week of May 2016, he stated that the first accused called him on phone and that they met at Connections Bar in Mlolongo, where the first accused told him that there was someone who had reported him to IPOA and that his case was coming up on the 23rd of June 2016 and that they must act on that day. He stated that on the 22nd of June 2016, he met the first accused at the police canteen at Mlolongo police station, where the first accused told him that he wanted him to follow the subject person after his case, his court case, and update him, that is the first accused, on all his movements. The first accused gave him a mobile number to use, but he could not recall the phone number. That on the material day, that is on the 23rd of June 2016, he left his house at 5:30, arrived at Mlolongo at 7:30. On his way to the Mlolongo police station, he met the first accused, who was driving a white Nissan Wing Road, registration number KBF. That the first accused introduced the lady as the person who would assist him identify the subject person. He stated that the first accused dropped him at a bus stop at Mlolongo, where they would board a matatu that would take them to Mavoko Locals. That at Mavoko Locals at around 9 a.m., the lady identified the subject matter person to him from a distance of about 5 to 6 meters. He stated that she told him, in quotes, "Kamutu yako ndio hiyo." The lady then left immediately. The fifth accused narrated how he communicated with the first accused the arrival of the second deceased to court, his movements up until 11 a.m. when the second deceased came out of the courtroom. The fifth accused stated that he called the first accused and informed him that the subject person had left the courtroom but was accompanied by another man and had entered a vehicle that was parked in the court premises and sat in the rear passenger seat. The fifth accused stated that he went outside the court premises to where the first accused had parked his car and entered the rear passenger seat, while the first accused was the driver and Sergeant Mwangi sat at the co-driver's seat. He stated that he knew Sergeant Mwangi because he worked with the first accused, and that the first accused had told him that Sergeant Mwangi was part of the operation plan. They waited a few minutes, after which the vehicle where the subject person had entered drove past them with 3 occupants. That they followed the vehicle and caught up with it at the railway crossing. He stated that Sergeant Mwangi drew his police pocket phone and beckoned them to stop. Sergeant Mwangi told the 3 occupants that they were under arrest. The 3 occupants alighted from their vehicle and entered the first accused vehicle. The fifth accused stated that he took over their vehicle and drove it to Kwambera, where he abandoned it. He stated that the 3 deceased persons were taken to Syokimau AP post, that after he dumped the vehicle, he called the first accused, who told him to find them at Mlolongo. The fifth accused stated that he linked up with the first accused and Sergeant Mwangi at Connections Bar in Mlolongo. At about 7 p.m., the first accused received a call from someone at Syokimau AP post, who informed him that one of the victims had contacted his wife, that the first accused called an officer known as Kamenjo and asked him to make his way to the Syokimau police post, where he, the fifth accused, first accused and Sergeant Mwangi also proceeded and found Kamenjo already at the post waiting for them. The fifth accused stated that the first accused went inside a room, took the keys to the cells, opened the cell, and ordered the 3 victims to enter his vehicle, that is the Wing Road, that the Sergeant Mwangi handcuffed them while they were in the boot of the car, that he and Sergeant Mwangi entered the vehicle of the first accused, and the first accused drove with Kamenjo following behind them closely in his car, a Toyota NZD, registration number KBU. The 5th accused stated that they drove to an area a few meters away from the highway where they discussed whether or not to kill the 3 victims for close to 3 hours. That at about 9 p.m., a police officer who was driving a probe box passed by and asked them to identify themselves. He stated that Kamenjo, who also had a police pocket phone, told the officer that there were police officers on duty. The 5th accused stated that at about 10 p.m., the second deceased was killed. He stated that he was strangled to death using a rope and a nylon paper. His body was put in a sack and put in the boot of the Toyota NZE. And at this time, the police officer who had earlier asked them to identify themselves passed by again on his way home. He was driving a probe box and he waved at them as he drove by. The 5th accused stated that at about 11 p.m., the second victim was removed from the boot of the Wing Road, taken to a different ground, not the same place the second deceased was killed. He stated that the second victim was killed in the same style as the second deceased. His body was put in 2 sacks as he was tall and could not fit into 1 sack. The 2 sacks were joined at the hip with a rope. His body was also put in the Toyota NZD. The 3rd victim was also killed in the same style as the other 2. His body was put in a sack and placed in the boot of the Wing Road. The body of the first victim, that is the second deceased, was transferred from the Toyota NZD to the Wing Road. So the 5th accused stated that his role in this case was to look out and remove the victims from the Wing Road, hand them over to the Sergeant Mwangi, who in turn escorted the victims to the first accused, and Kamenjo, where they were executed, where the execution took place.
Judith Omondi, Kani Nairobi, Ma, Ramogi TV.